Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well still. I mean, what could have happened in the last 3 minutes that I took to eat something Fozzie, drunken Smurf? I didn't want to eat a sandwich. I wanted to eat something hot. So I made a meal and then I watched shorts while I ate it. And now I'm here. Yes, that was 3 minutes. There was bacon and sausage because it was for me. If it was for the kids, it would have been one or the other. Please don't send pictures. Okay, back to OJ. And this one is longer than the other two by a few minutes. It's 53 minutes long, but I wish we had more time to do more. At the end of these OJs, I'm like, I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop. But we have to be ready for the judge. We have to be ready for Texas. I'm telling you, though, if that judge takes a day off, we're going to be doing a lot more OJ than 1 hour. CJ, go to bed. Go to sleep. Sleep is good. Nan said so. All right, guys, here we go.
Of those, as to the origin of those hairs.
No, we have not. We don't have a hair sample to compare those hairs to yet. Oh, I'm sorry, you just want did you want a body origin?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have that with me. I don't know if I gave that to. It's in process, and I don't know if that's one of the completed reports that I brought with me last night, which I know the prosecution hasn't had time to review. And
Have you determined those to be Caucasian hairs?
I can't tell you that without referring to the reports.
Can you look at the report?
I don't have it with me because no one has reviewed it yet, and I know you don't have it.
Your Honor, I was just provided this morning. This is a package for counsel pursuant to the request we made when we were last in court. And I'm going to turn it over to counsel and give you an opportunity to look at it. I haven't seen it myself. We all just got these packages. So I'd ask counsel to acknowledge receipt of it on the record.
And that package is from the crime lab?
Yes, it is.
This from the crime lab. If the court recalls, last time we were in court, we promised to turn over the records requested verbally, and I just got them. I'd ask that counsel sign for them where it's indicated and date it, and he can take possession, and then I hope he'll get mine at some point later today.
Just so if I may interject, what is not there is the protocol. We're still copying those. Those are volumes that we hope to have them early next week, Monday or Tuesday.
If you could inform the court what you mean by protocol.
The protocols for DNA and the proficiency testing for DNA, with PCR, and also conventional serology.
Does that have anything to do with the results or testing conducted in this case?
Not, it does, but it's not, we haven't talked about it here today.
No. The point being, that's a protocol you follow in all cases, is that right?
That's correct.
Not just for this case?
That's correct.
Your
Mr.
Honor,
Shapiro?
I wonder, based on what the court indicated the schedule would be, if we might take a break so we can review these records before we continue questioning. I anticipate very, very limited questions only on the remaining four hair samples, and the amount, and for preparation so that the records can be looked at over the break. We'd like to know the number of hairs, whether they are follicles or shafts of hair, where they were found, and how many of them there are.
Well, Your Honor, perhaps the reports that counsel has been given indicate all of that. And if that's the case, then...
Right, and if that information is contained within what you have, then you're going to have the answer to that.
Yeah, if we do. If we don't, those are things we'll be questioning.
Well, if you haven't got the report there, then I can't officially because it hasn't been verified. That means those items aren't done yet, not completed. We're still working on them.
All right, well, you'll have to determine that, and maybe you can sort of confer, if you need to, off the record with regard to some of these items. I don't think it necessarily has to be part of this motion that we're dealing with.
Thank you very much.
All right, then we will break at this time, and yes.
I'm sorry, Mayor, just one moment. We received this from DTE. It looks like it's a response to a statement And it has been delivered to me by the clerk in appeals division, which is a matter which was delivered to her. I take it. Yes. And I'm going to ask to open it now on the record in open court so the council can observe the opening and the contents of the envelope. If I may.
Yes.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can this possibly be done in the appropriate manner?
This is the appropriate manner, Your Honor.
Well, I don't know that it has to be on the record.
Seems like a little bit of grandstanding, but
If the two of
maybe it
you-
is, maybe it
Excuse
isn't.
me, I can't believe I heard Mr. Shapiro say that. I'd rather conduct everything on the record, Your Honor, in open court.
All right, then open the envelope. Go ahead.
For the record, reflect that I have now broken the seal, opening the envelope, and I've retrieved what appears to be a one-page letter I'm going to show to counsel.
All right, Ms. Clark, my clerk Alicia informs me that that came accompanied by another larger packet of records which she's holding there, which you'll want to review, and I would really prefer that you, if possible, can review those records off the record.
Oh, I'd be delighted to review them off the record. All I want to indicate now is that they're in a sealed condition and that we may open them and duplicate them for counsel.
Assuming that both sides are agreeable to that.
That's agreeable, and that's the proper procedure.
Fine, thank
Excuse me,
you.
Your Honor, I don't think I've engaged in any improper procedures thus far, and I still appreciate counsel's editorial.
All right, now, today only, because of certain matters that do not concern the rest of you, we are going to be breaking until 2 o'clock. I anticipate the following schedule, and I assume that most of you have been advised of this. And that is that the court intends to start at 9 o'clock and go until 12 with a 15-minute break somewhere during the mid part of that morning session. The court intends to, under normal circumstances, continue with the proceeding at 1:30 with a 15-minute break somewhere around 3 o'clock or so, and concluding the proceeding at 4:30. That's what I anticipate, and that's a schedule hopefully that we'll be able to abide by, generally speaking. I'm going to ask everyone's cooperation with regard to these breaks that we take, the 15-minute breaks. I would very much like to see them remain 15 minutes as opposed to 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And so it's really going to be up to you folks to make sure that you are back in your seats and all the necessary counsel and so forth are back so that we can keep this matter moving along. So I would request the cooperation of everyone so that we can handle this matter as smoothly as possible. So at this point in time, we will be in recess until 2 o'clock. We will conclude this motion hopefully shortly thereafter, and we will begin with the other motions, including the motion to suppress at that time.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Have a seat, please.
I can't believe that they just started a video just to go on break. This is how I work. I clock in and I'm like, okay, I'll be back. I'm going to take the trash out back. I'm scared to pop it ahead because, look, this was the most replayed. So something happens right here. Why are people replaying this seal on the wall? Oh, it's so pretty though. That's why. Trying to get right at the beginning. All right. Any second something's going to happen.
And I guess we can continue with the witness, Ms. Kessler.
May I turn over some discovery while we're waiting for the exam?
Yes.
Pages 539 to 614, I'm having the defense counsel now. Copy of the SDP, which is the original which I returned to the court clerk. Yeah. the original. And I'd like to indicate to the court that I've given a copy to the court for review, an article on proceedings of the International Symposium on Forensic Hair Comparisons. I gave a copy of this to counsel this morning. I'm specifically directing the court's attention to page numbered 11 on it, be the second paragraph in, where it's indicated that it is recommended that a known
Your Honor,
paper sample.
I'm going to object to reading this. This is a document that's a hearsay document stated June 25th, 1985. Thank God we should have some material a little more recent than 9 years ago, including testimony that should come from the witness stand from the prosecutor.
All right, is Ms. Kessler prepared to testify in some fashion concerning this particular document?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll wait until she refers to it specifically.
As I understand the law, Your Honor, an expert is entitled to rely on articles and periodicals, and that kind of hearsay is admissible through the expert testimony. And I was simply trying to assist the court in directing its attention to the specific area that is in question now.
All right, thank you.
How are you guys talking about food when we're talking about hair follicles and blood?
I apologize, Your Honor. It would appear the witness may have gone upstairs instead of coming straight to the court. Should be very momentarily.
Oh, I'm not hungry. That makes sense. I'm not hungry right now.
All right, Ms. Kessler, if you could retake your seat on the witness stand.
I think she's late, guys. What do you think?
You've previously been sworn and do remain under oath.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Shapiro.
Mrs. Kessler, the information that we have just reviewed that was handed to us just before the new recess consists of a one-page document dated 6/29/94 that lists 4 items as hairs and fibers. Do you know which document I'm referring to?
No. Could you tell me the item numbers?
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Oh, this is a property report, yes.
Are you familiar with that document?
Yes, I am.
Are there any other documents that have been prepared to your knowledge that relate to the hairs that were removed from items 9, 27, 37, and 38?
I love it. Did you see her facial expression? I gotta bump it back just a second to when she throws the paper at him because this is how I feel all day, every day. I'm certainly gonna have to clip this 100%. She's gonna throw the paper at him and just watch her whole face.
This is a property report, yes.
Are you familiar with that document?
Yes, I am.
Are there any other documents that have been prepared to your knowledge that relate to the hairs that were removed from items 9, 27, 37, and 38?
Yes, in that same package, along with that document, there was a report, or 2 reports, on hair items in regards to those property items booked.
May I just have a moment to get those, Your Honor?
Yes.
Plus, I also was able to review and complete for our hair analyst 2 more reports on 2 more items of hair that we discussed earlier this morning that I said were awaiting my approval. And I have copies here.
So you're indicating you have some additional discovery for both counsel?
Yes, I do.
All right, Mr. Shapiro and Ms. Clark, do you want to approach the witness stand and pick up your copies of that?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Those are yours. And those are yours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
I just have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Y'all have had enough breaks. Let's go. Let's get to getting.
Could you summarize for us, please, the number of hairs that you recall were found in item number 9?
I believe you have the copy of the report. I'd have to review that.
You don't have that?
No, I don't have that one.
Let me give you all these copies, and then maybe we can work together.
Sure, that's no problem.
If you keep your voice up, yes. Just to remind me, is item number 9 the glove?
Yes.
Thank you.
Head of forensics at the police department.
And item number 19 were items removed from number 9.
Thank you.
Just let me make sure of that before I say something wrong. Yes, item number 19 contained hairs and fibers removed from item number 9. So this report here, first report, is referring to item number 19, and in that item there were 3 human head hairs, blonde in color, and they ranged in length from 3.5 to 29.5 centimeters and exhibited predominantly Caucasian characteristics. They also exhibited indications of possible chemical treatment, bleaching. And none of them had roots. And then there were also several fibers and animal hairs, which we haven't had time to characterize further at this time.
Would you be able to give us the same summary, please, for item number 27, the cap that was found on the driver's floor of the Bronco?
Surely. Item number 111 contained, the new number, item number 111, is the hairs and fibers removed from item number 27, the cap. And that contains, among the hairs were 6 human head hairs ranging in color from brown to black, ranging in length from 1.1 to 2.2 centimeters, and exhibiting predominantly negroid characteristics. 2 of these hairs have intact roots, and the remaining 4 hairs do not have intact roots. And then it goes on to talk about several fibers and animal hairs, which we have not characterized at this time, and some insect activity, which is...
Regarding the 2 hairs that are intact with roots, would it be possible to have your laboratory keep one and share one with an independent laboratory?
Not at this time, because there's no guarantee that with 1 hair you can do PCR or any kind of, it's not necessarily conclusive. We may need both to do DNA analysis on. 1 is not always enough.
With the 4 hairs that do not have roots,
Yes.
would it be possible to share those for independent analysis?
Well, I believe rather than, we're going to, our approach to that normally would be, let me just put it in that form, would be that we analyze all 4 because we don't know whether they're similar at this point. Came from the same individual or could have come from the same individual. We would like to compare all 4 of those hairs to our exemplars, and then using via a master criminalist or something to that effect, allow your laboratory to have all 4 of those hairs or whatever, and they could be viewed by you, all 4 of them. You can't split the hairs. I think we went through this. I heard this on the news.
Yes, we did go through that, but let me just ask you, hairs aren't consumed in the analysis?
No, they're not in microscopic analysis.
So as far as that goes, that once you did whatever you were going to do to the hairs, the ones that without the roots, they could go to the defense and they could do whatever they wanted to with the hairs, presuming that they weren't destroyed somehow in
Right.
their analysis.
That's correct, Your Honor.
The ones with the roots are destroyed in analysis?
Just the portion that's consumed in the PCR analysis, the rest of it remains.
But the root portion would be
The root
destroyed?
portion is consumed, that's correct.
With regard to item 37, would you be kind enough to tell us the type of hairs that were recovered from that item, please?
37. That must be the other report that you still have.
Let me give
Or
you
do
all
I
the-
have it?
Let me give you all.
I have 58. Okay, thank you. Well, I have some notes on that. Apparently, that must be one of the reports. I thought that was in your package that I gave you yesterday. Item number 37? Oh, that's the one that's not completed. Okay, that analysis is not completed at this time. We're still working on that.
So you cannot tell us how many hairs
No, I
that were
cannot.
there or what type of hairs
No.
they were?
No, that's still being worked on.
Do you know when you'll have that result?
Hopefully by Monday.
And regarding item number 38,
Item number 38, so that one's completed. Item number 113 are hairs, fibers, et cetera, and debris removed from item number 38. And the blue knit cap. Item 38 is the blue knit cap.
Thank you.
I'll just get summarized down to the important part here. There were 34 human hairs. 32 are consistent with head hair and 2 are consistent with body hair. Among the 32 head hairs, 25 are dark reddish brown to black in color, ranging in length from 0.7 to 3.5 centimeters and exhibiting predominantly negroid characteristics. Additionally, 4 of these 25 hairs have intact roots, while the remaining 21 do not. And these came from both the interior and exterior surfaces of the knit cap.
of the four, I'm sorry, complete your answer, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. From the remaining 7 head hairs, 5 are blonde in color, ranging in length from 3.0 to 8.5. Okay, I'm sorry. I know that, but I'm reading. From the remaining 7 head hairs, 5 are blonde in color and range in length from 3.0 to 8.5 centimeters and exhibit predominantly Caucasian characteristics and exhibit indications of chemical treatment, i.e. bleaching. These hairs were all located on the exterior surface of the cap. The remaining 2 head hairs, also located on the exterior surface of item 38, are brown and reddish brown in color, 1.0 and 0.9 centimeters in length, respectively, and exhibit predominantly Caucasian characteristics. None of the above described 7 hairs have intact roots. And then there's several animal hairs and fibers, which we have not characterized at this time.
Was there any blood found on item number 38?
Not on 38 per se at this time. We removed the hairs and fibers and have not done a complete blood search for it, but I believe it was laying near blood at the crime scene, and so it wouldn't surprise me if it's contaminated with blood.
Of the 4 hairs that were inside that appear to be Afro-American hair, that have roots,
They have negroid characteristics. They're not necessarily Afro-American hair. Okay, that's a characteristic and terminology used in hair only, and I'm afraid they've never changed it, so we have to stick with that.
of those 4 hairs, are any of those available to an independent examiner?
Again, not at this time. We'd like to, but the ones with roots? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Ones with roots, again, until the DNA is done, I prefer not to. We don't know. We don't know the strength. We don't know how old the hairs are, so we don't know how strong the DNA might be in the root. Again, at this time, I wouldn't want to give them up until our testing is done.
Where will that testing take place?
I believe we haven't totally decided where we're going to do it yet, but it probably will be done by an independent lab.
Your Honor, may I retrieve the documents that were given to me?
Certainly.
And I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right.
Sure. I think these are all yours. No, I think those are all yours, counsel. Yeah, they're all marked.
Ms. Clark, do you have some additional questions of the witness?
I do, very briefly. Ms. Kessler, with respect to the knit cap, item number 38, you indicate that on the interior of the cap was located 34 human hairs?
Now, the 34
And
hairs,
bugs.
as she stated here, that were from the interior and exterior of the cab.
That's total,
That's total.
okay. Okay, 2 of those 34 hairs are consistent with body hair. Is that,
2 are consistent with body hair.
and were those 2 that were consistent with body hair found to be demonstrative of Negroid or Caucasian characteristics?
She didn't characterize them at this point, and she didn't also not, or this is our hair analyst, we have not had time to look at them to see if we can tell that. Very often body hair is so fine and so small, it's impossible to determine origin.
And with respect to body hair, is that capable of being, do those 2 hairs have roots?
Apparently, it's not indicated here, and I don't have her notes. I just realized that she did not indicate roots or no roots.
Can that be determined?
Yes.
Then of the 32 head hairs, 25 were found to have Negroid characteristics,
Yes, that's correct, counsel.
and those came from the interior of the cap?
No, those are both from the interior and exterior.
And then the hairs that were determined to be primarily Caucasian, chemically treated blonde hairs, those were from the exterior?
Exterior.
They really weren't big on fake nails back then, were they? Those are real, right? Do we think those are real? I think they're real.
Is it your plan at this time to subject all of the hairs to both PCR and microscopic analysis?
The only hairs that would be subjected to PCR analysis would be those with the roots. The rest would be microscopic examination.
Okay. And based on... In order to perform a microscopic analysis and comparison of hairs, how many head hairs do you need to retrieve from a suspect for the purpose of comparison?
I have a couple of references here, and the references all indicate 30 to 100 hairs. And one of my references is from a book, Forensic Science and Introduction to Criminalistics, by Peter DeForest, Robert Ganslin, and Henry C. Lee. And
I'm sorry, is that the same Henry Lee that we had testimony?
yes, it is.
concerning?
It's the only Henry Lee I know, and that was the one I'm assuming that was the one I was questioned about. On page 211
Of that book,
of that book, which I have
co-authored
extra,
by Henry Lee?
yes, of which I have extra copies here, if anybody wants to
May I click on it?
have
Yes.
one. On page
Copyright
211, it
infringement.
refers to known samples of hair, and we're talking about microscopic examination only here, not DNA analysis. They're 2 entirely separate types of analysis needing separate samples. Known samples of hair should be given careful consideration. If questioned head hairs are to be submitted, then the known sample should contain representative samples from different parts of the scalp. Ordinarily, the hairs should not be cut. Vigorous combing or massaging of the scalp will usually yield 30 to 40, and he uses the term telogen hairs. That's basically adult hairs or fully grown hairs. If the questioned sample is thought to contain anagen hairs, which are adult hairs, if you will. Then so must the known sample, and these must be plucked. It is advantageous to have both plucked and combed hairs in the known sample in any case, and they should be packaged and labeled separately. And then I have another quote from the FBI.
You're true, but in the 90s, we didn't really have access to anything but those like stick-on ones. You stick them on. I mean, we still have them today. We didn't have like real professional ones like we do now. I think those are her real nails.
From the symposium held on proceedings of the International Symposium on Forensic Hair Comparisons. Again, I have copies for anyone that wishes to read them.
Is this the one that you furnished copies of to everyone?
Yes, that's the correct one.
All right.
May I refer you to this, Kessler, may I refer you to page 11 of that document that has been furnished to court and counsel, which you furnished to me this morning, page 11,
Right,
the
that's
second
correct.
paragraph.
It is recommended that a known head hair sample consist of at least 20 hairs from each of 5 different areas of the scalp, and then refers to center, front, back, and both sides, and that these hairs be obtained by both pulling and combing. And then it goes on to talk about a little bit of procedure in doing that collection, and then it goes on to talking about how we select that, or what the routine procedure for selecting a random sample of those 100 hairs is. And that's where we have come up over the years from different sources for wanting between 30 to 100 head hairs for microscopic comparison for the exemplar.
Now, this article that you're quoting from that you just quoted from was put out by the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
That's correct.
It's dated 1985.
That's correct.
To the best of your knowledge, has the practice changed any among criminalists concerning the size of sample required for an effective microscopic analysis of hairs?
No,
Kathy
it has
doesn't
not.
date.
And the book you quoted from, co-authored by Henry C. Lee, the portion that you just read to us would seem to indicate also that
I haven't heard the end of the question yet, so I can't quite rule.
reading the article that you've read to us, the portion of the article you've read to us from the book co-authored by Henry Lee, what do you deduce concerning his practice or advised practice in terms of the size of sample required to do an effective microscopic analysis of hairs?
Well, it appears
I take everything I said back, guys. They're not her nails. Look, look, look. You can see. You see where they're growing out? Those are not her nails. I take it back. We all had access to nails back then. I just forgot. Because those are not her nails.
to purport that the authors of this book indicate that a minimum of 30 to 40 hairs is necessary before you have an adequate sample.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that the pages that have been Xeroxed by the witness be copied for both counsel and one for the court. I'd like to mark it or also admit this for the court's consideration in addition to the article that I've furnished the court with this morning.
All right, did you want to then mark those as actual exhibits with regard to the motion?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so we'll denote Proceedings of the International Symposium on Forensic Hair Comparisons article as People's Exhibit Number 1 for purposes of this motion only.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And would you describe the title of the other document, please?
Yes, Your Honor. It's entitled Forensic Science, an Introduction to Criminalistics, authored by Peter DeForest, R.E. Gainslen, that's Gaensslen, and Henry C. Lee.
And you wanted to note that as People's 2 for this
Yes, Your
motion?
Honor. Thank you.
All right.
She's crying.
Do you have additional questions of the witness at this time?
Just a couple more, Your Honor. Thank
All
you.
right.
With respect to the information that you've given us concerning DNA analysis and the quantities of evidence required to perform those tests. Where did you get that information?
The analysis, the amount of sample needed for DNA analysis has been given to us over the years by different entities and experts in the field, including the FBI, Cellmark, private laboratory Cellmark Diagnostics. Obviously, before we sent something to them, we needed to know what they purported to be the minimum sample that was required. It began, and I can indicate too, it began when we first started that a quarter-size sample of blood was necessary to do RFLP analysis, and they've progressed to where it's down to.
You're right. This is just the preliminary hearing we're at right now.
About what they refer to as a nickel size, which equates to one of our 1 centimeter square swatches soaked heavily with blood.
So do you undertake to conduct that evaluation with respect to blood evidence on a routine basis? And that evaluation being whether or not an evidence sample of blood is sufficient in quantity or quality for DNA testing?
Yes, we do. We have sent out over 100 cases for RFLP, all of which have been evaluated in the same manner that we've discussed here today, and those contained in excess of 400 items, which we've evaluated for RFLP or PCR or other types of analysis. And it's basically done on the basis that we discussed here today.
And when you say RFLP and PCR, you're referring to tests for DNA.
Yes, 2 different types of testing for DNA. That's correct.
So the evaluation process to determine how much, whether you have a sufficient sample for further testing is something that is done by you on a routine basis.
Yes.
And have you previously been consulted before as to whether there is sufficient evidence, blood, to allow for a split?
In other cases, yes.
And is that also done by you on a routine basis?
Yes, in last couple of recent years, I've turned that over to other people, but in the beginning, when we first began sending out DNA, I strictly did the evaluation myself.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Shapiro? Yes. Anything further?
Your Honor, may I direct the court's and counsel's attention to our discovery motion item 29C, which we had filed last week regarding expert witnesses. Any and all writings or publications used in any way by the experts in forming opinions or obtaining a basis for forming an opinion, including teaching manuals, journals, treatise, textbooks, bulletins, and other records of classes in the expert's field of expertise or otherwise. Again, we've been repeatedly assured every time an issue comes up that all items of discovery will be complied with. Clearly, this has not been complied with.
Your Honor, it has. I've turned over everything as soon as I received it. This morning I received the item now marked as People's 1, and as counsel was able to see, the witness brought People's number 2 with her, and I didn't have any knowledge of it until the witness brought it in. And if counsel would like to question the witness as to how she came about obtaining People's 2 and whether I've ever seen it before she brought it out on the witness stand today, I'd welcome him to do so.
Mr. Shapiro, it strikes me that this motion with regard to the hairs was one that sort of came up rather suddenly based on your filing an order for my signature yesterday, I believe, limiting the hair sample to 1 hair. And that's how we got on this whole issue. And if you feel that you haven't had sufficient time to meet these manuals, then, you know, I'm willing to give you some additional time to deal with that. But I don't see that there's been any bad faith exercise on the part of the people at this point in time, in light of the short notice that we're dealing with here in this instance.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're prepared to proceed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. With regard to the book that you have relied on, have you read that book in its entirety?
No, I have not.
What portions of the book have you read?
Oh, over the years, I've read different portions. It's basically a reference book. I sort of collect books on forensic evidence, and especially by people I know, and I know all the authors of this book personally. So I have, read different parts here and there. I haven't read the whole thing. It's repetitive of many things. There's only small sections on hair and blood. There's other sections on, this is entirely forensic science. It's an introduction to criminalistics.
Regarding the section on hair that you have relied on in forming your opinion, do the authors of that book say how many hairs should be plucked for comparison for DNA analysis?
I don't recall because this was written in 1983. And so for DNA, again, DNA, it takes a minimum, well, first of all, we're not going to do DNA on any of the hair we're asking for. We're only asking for the hair for microscopic comparison purposes.
So then you don't need any roots.
Yes, we need roots for microscopic comparison purposes. It's not a valid sample to be only looking at the shaft and not the entire hair.
My question now is, in reading the book that you've relied on in making your opinion, does it say how many hair samples of roots should be obtained?
Well, yes, I believe it did.
Objection made. For what purpose? Microscopic analysis? What is counsel referring to?
I believe it.
Mr. Shapiro, are you referring now just to microscopic
Yes, Your
analysis? Thank you.
On page 211, I believe I referred to it before, it says, ordinarily the hairs should not be cut, which indicates plucking right off. They suggest plucking them all. That's the inference I read here.
Is that what it says? Well, would you read it?
It says, known samples, these are the known samples, should be given careful consideration. If question hairs are to be submitted, and that's our evidence hairs, then the known sample, that's what we're asking for, should contain representative samples from different parts of the scalp. Ordinarily, the hairs should not be cut. Vigorous combing or massaging of the scalp will usually yield 30 to 40 telogen hairs, or essentially adult hairs or viable hairs. If the question sample is thought to contain anagen hairs, which is underdeveloped hairs, then so must the known sample, and these must be plucked, because you cannot shake those out.
Does it say how many should be plucked?
It says ordinarily the hair should not be cut. That's all 30 or 40 of them. And it says here that if you vigorously comb or massage the head, that you should be able to yield 30 or 40 hairs with roots. That's what they're inferring.
So what you are relying upon then is that a vigorous massaging of Mr. Simpson's head along with combing should give you sufficient sample.
That's what that one reference refers to. The
Okay.
reference of preference, I brought that specifically because of your reference to Dr. Lee this morning. And that's an older reference than the FBI symposium reference, which indicates that on page 11, that
Some people can read without moving their mouths.
these hairs can be obtained by both pulling and combing, and they don't give a number. And no, we don't need a lot of roots,
Thank you.
but we
Nothing
need
further.
more than one.
Thank you, nothing further.
Ms. Clark, do you have any further questions? I have just a couple of questions.
Sure.
Do you know approximately how many hairs a typical human head, male human head, contains?
No, I do not.
You have no idea at all?
No, it varies. It varies. I mean, just in looking around the room, it varies totally. I didn't mean that to be funny. It varies greatly.
Is there like a minimum typical number of human hairs?
No.
All right. In the course of an average day, is there some number of hairs that one loses just through the normal course of the day? Combing your hair and...
Again, there's a random average of what you shed on a daily basis, but you tend to shed dead hairs, which don't necessarily contain roots.
So when we're talking about 100 hairs, which is the most that your periodical indicates, and is that like a lot of hairs compared to the total number of hairs on a human head?
No, it is not. Not on someone with a full head of hair. I would say if someone is, and I don't want to point anyone out in the room, but I would say if someone is balding to an excessive degree, I guess 100 hairs would be a lot. And then you don't have all 5 areas to pluck from either, so you're only going to pluck from the areas available. So, we're flexible here. That's why we say 30 to 100. We're not saying we have to have 100 hairs.
Okay. Are there any further questions based upon the court's questions?
All
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Kessler, thank you very much. You may
Thank
step
you,
down.
Your Honor.
Ms. Clark, do you intend to present any other evidence with regard to this issue?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Shapiro, do you intend to present any evidence on this issue at this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Does either side wish to be heard?
Yes, sure. Regarding the issue of blood samples, I think clearly with the number of samples that have been taken and the tests that have been done, to allow the Los Angeles Police Department crime lab to consume all of the samples deprives Mr. Simpson of his right to an independent analysis of the samples and therefore will prevent him from ever coming forward to show that errors have been made in the analysis.
Ms. Clark?
I think that we have repetitively covered that ground. If what counsel is attempting to assure himself of is that there are no errors in the methods employed in the analysis, I have invited him and a team of experts to examine and observe every step of the procedure of testing as to every single item. I repeat that invitation again. I can only reiterate, Your Honor, that the investigation has to be governed by the appropriate scientific procedures as determined by the experts, and that the prosecution must be permitted to investigate its own case. To do otherwise would permit counsel to come forward, limit the number of tests that we conduct on a piece of evidence, and then argue to the court that the results of testing are unreliable because they were incomplete. Obviously, that's a catch-22 situation that the people should never be placed in. We want to thoroughly investigate this case and obtain every result possible to gain maximum confidence in the results. Any exclusion that is obtained by the result of any test may very well indicate that the source of the item in question is not the source that was anticipated, either be it victim or witness or defendant. Likewise, any inclusion would tend to corroborate the inclusions indicated by prior tests. So the complete testing of every item of evidence is clearly a very necessary and important thing. Therefore, people simply indicate that they are we are desirous of pursuing every test possible, and we invite counsel and all team of experts he wants to have present to please come and observe every process, test every buffer and every solution to make sure that nothing is contaminated, and that way we will preserve every right to which he's entitled.
All right, the court is prepared to make its ruling at this time. And that is this. What Ms. Clark has characterized as an invitation to the defense to be present at these various testing of these various samples about which we've heard testimony today is going to be more than an invitation. It's going to be subject to a court order that, in fact, the defense be present for the testing that's performed on any of these items, particularly in light of the fact that the only testimony that was presented today is that Ms. Kessler, who is the expert in this area who testified, does not know whether, in fact, any of the tests that are going to be performed will, in fact, consume the entire sample. In light of that fact that we do not know whether there'll be a sample remaining, in order to safeguard Mr. Simpson's rights in this matter, the court does order that the defense be entitled to be present as indicated, and not just by mere invitation, but as a requirement in this case. With regard to the hairs and the number of hairs, the court will order that the prosecution be entitled to obtain at least 40, but no more than 100 hairs from the various areas, the 5 areas as denoted in the scalp of Mr. Simpson. That should accommodate a sufficient sample of hair to perform microscopic analysis or any other analysis that people have indicated that they may do, and sufficient sample for the defense also to perform their tests after the prosecution is finished performing whatever tests they need as well. If that at some point in time is insufficient, then the matter can be revisited at some future date. But I think that really should accommodate the needs of everyone, and hopefully we can put this issue to rest at this point. Now, with those matters taken care of, we can move to the substance of the hearing today, which is for the purpose of conducting the preliminary
What happened? Please say ER department means something way different in Australia. What happened?
hearing in this case. And although we did have a brief conference in chambers with the reporter, I just want to reiterate on the record that
The
both
hell do
sides
you
are ready
mean,
to
hey,
proceed to
Smurf?
preliminary.
What is wrong with you, girl? What happened? And you better not say hi to someone else. What happened?
Hearing. Is that right, Mr. Shapiro? Ms. Clark?
That is, Your Honor.
All right. The court is in receipt of a notice of motion and motion to suppress and return evidence, to quash and traverse search warrant, and a memorandum of points and authorities and declaration of Gerald Ullman in support. That motion was filed yesterday afternoon, almost 5 o'clock. Now, it would be the court's proposal that we handle that motion. And at the time that we commence that motion, we are in fact commencing the preliminary hearing in this case, but that we handle the motion first before we get to any other kind of testimony or other issues with regard to the preliminary hearing. Is there any objection to handling the motion first?
If I may be heard, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you. The people were served this motion at 10 minutes to 5 last night. We had no prior notice of any intention of the defense to file such a motion. In light of that fact, we were prepared to proceed with civilian witnesses in this preliminary hearing, as I informed defense counsel pursuant to his phone call to me last night. In view of the fact that those witnesses were already prepared and subpoenaed to be in court, we were unable to contact them and rescind their subpoena in time, and they will be substantially inconvenienced at this point if we are to proceed with the motion in lieu of their testimony. What I'm asking of the court, if it is acceptable, Your Honor, is to present the testimony of these civilian witnesses and proceed with the motion on Tuesday, when the civilian witnesses will have been all contacted and told not to attend court, so that we can handle the motion instead.
All right. I personally have no problem with that. I assume that the testimony of civilian witnesses is not going to specifically relate to the issues or the evidence that's involved in this motion to suppress. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Mr. Ullman?
With respect to the filing of the motion, Your Honor, much of the factual basis of the motion was based on testimony that was presented in the grand jury that the defense first became aware of on Monday or Tuesday of this week, when we obtained the grand jury transcripts. And the motion was filed just as soon as it was completed. We have no objection to proceeding with witnesses who would not present any testimony affected by the motion to suppress. But before any testimony is presented,
The judge or the magistrate, whoever it is in here, clearly told them to go up to the podium to speak. She said, go to the microphone. He's not listening. Contempt of court. Tase him.
relating to evidence obtained at the premises of Mr. Simpson, we would like the motion to be heard.
All right. I think that's an agreeable way to proceed in this case. And so we will defer then any further evidence with regard to the motion until Tuesday. You have sufficient civilian witnesses, you feel, to fill the remainder of today and tomorrow as well?
I believe I do, Your Honor. It's hard to predict the length of cross-examination, but I think that that will be the case.
All right. Do you have a witness available at this time?
Your Honor, I will be presenting the first two civilian witnesses on behalf of the people. It is my understanding that those witnesses are sequestered per the court's suggestion
Yes.
in an office upstairs. If I may grant leave to contact someone upstairs and see if I can have at least the first of those witnesses brought to this court.
All right, let me just ask a question. And I know that we got off to a late start because of things that were out of the control of any of us. if we were to take the 15-minute recess, which is a little bit earlier than I anticipated at this point, until 3 o'clock, which is actually a little bit more than 15 minutes, and then at 3 o'clock we began the testimony and went straight until 4:30, that would give you time to get your witness down here without any disruption at this point. Because otherwise the witness is probably going to take, 5 minutes or so to come from the 18th floor to get down here.
That's what I would expect.
And then we'd end up taking a break shortly after we began. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll take the afternoon recess at this point in time, begin promptly at 3 o'clock. Please have your witness here so that we can begin the testimony at that time.
I have plenty of time before Judge Fleischer starts. I'm going straight to the next one.
Opinion before this court shall be declared the whole truth and nothing but opinion before this court shall be declared the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Seated. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Alan Wattenberg, that's A-L-L-E-N, last name Wattenberg, W-A-T-T-E-N-B-E-R-G.
You may inquire.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Mr. Wattenberg, you are the co-owner of a business located here in the city of Los Angeles, are you not?
That's correct.
And what is the name of your business, sir?
The name of our business is Ross Cutlery.
And what type of business is Ross Cutlery?
Ross Cutlery is a retail cutlery store and sharpening service.
And Mr. Wattenberg, would you tell us where your business is located, please?
Our business is located at 3rd and Broadway at 310 South Broadway in the old Bradbury building.
And sir, how long has your business been located in the old Bradbury building?
My brother and I have had the business since 1965, and prior to that, another gentleman owned the business for about 40 years, and his name was Mr. Ross.
And during that period of time, has Ross Cutlery been located at one location or another within the old Bradbury building?
It's been located in 3 different locations within the building.
Now, Mr. Wattenberg, you are co-owner of Ross Cutlery, is that correct?
That is correct.
And with whom do you co-own Ross Cutlery?
I co-own Ross Cutlery with my brother Richard Wattenberg.
And sir, at this time, how many employees do you have?
We have, counting my brother and myself, there's 7 of us.
And sir, as of this time, is one of the employees who works for you named Jose Camacho?
Yes, there is.
And about how long has Mr. Camacho worked for you, Mr. Wattenberg?
Mr. Camacho has worked for me approximately 20 years.
And what is his job title?
He's in sales.
Mr. Wattenberg, I would like to direct your attention to the date of Tuesday, May the 3rd, 1994. Were you working at your business on that day?
Yes, I was.
And was Mr. Camacho, the employee to whom you have just referred, was he working that day as well?
Yes, he was.
Mr. Wattenberg, do you recall approximately what time you arrived at Ross Cutlery that day?
That day, I more than likely came in somewhere between 7 and 7:30.
And sir, are you the one who opens the business?
Generally, I am, yes.
And Mr. Wattenberg, on that date of May the 3rd, 1994, were you working during the afternoon hours?
Yes, I was.
And was Mr. Camacho working that afternoon as well?
Yes, sir, he was.
On that particular afternoon, Mr. Wattenberg, did you observe any unusual activity occurring outside of your business that afternoon?
Yes, sir, I did.
And would you please tell us what you observed?
This particular day, there was a film company there doing a pilot for a TV series, I believe.
And what types of things did you see that evidenced such filming or such a project underway?
There was a rather large film crew there with cameras, lights, and all the different items that go along with filming.
And specifically in relation to your storefront, where was this filming occurring?
Directly in front of our store.
And did you, during the course of that afternoon, happen to observe some of the filming as it was occurring?
Yes, I did.
And during the course of your observations of that filming, did you recognize anyone on the set?
Yes, sir, I did.
And who was that you observed, sir?
Mr. O.J. Simpson.
You see Mr. O.J. Simpson present in court today.
Yes, sir, I do.
Would you point him out for us, please?
The gentleman over there.
We'll stipulate he is a
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, counsel. Mr. Wattenberg, during the course of that afternoon, Did the defendant ever come into your store, Ross Cutlery?
Yes, he did.
And how many times do you recall him coming into your store that afternoon?
I believe I saw him there once, possibly twice myself.
Now, with regard to the first time, to your best recollection, did you pay close attention to the defendant as he came into the store?
Not really. We just let him browse around.
Lies. Okay. First off, he doesn't know how many times O.J. Simpson walked into his store. Once, maybe twice. You know exactly how many times. And then, did you watch him when he came into the store? Hell yeah, I watched him. He's O.J. Simpson. Of course I watched him.
We didn't bother him, or I should say I didn't bother him.
Was your attention drawn to other activities at the time?
At the other time, I was busy doing several different things in the store that I normally do.
Liar.
I see.
He's
Now,
a
were you
liar.
present in the store that afternoon when Mr. Simpson, the defendant, came in a second time?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And would you tell us what occurred when you observed the defendant come in the store the second time?
I believe that he came in and looking into our store from the outside, he was looking at items on the left-hand side of our store, which would be the north.
I don't think so. Because if they ask him how many times he came into the store, one, maybe two? No. He knows how many.
Side of our store. And I think Mr. Jose Camacho showed him several different items that he had an interest in, and he spent some time with him, talking with him and stuff.
Victoria's out of prison, guys. Now she can get back to work. How is jail? I always wanted to say that to her.
And Mr. Wattenberg, where were you when you observed the defendant come into the store the second time?
To my best of knowledge, I was at the front portion of the store on the other side.
Would this be on the south side of the building, or your store rather?
On the south side of the building, yes, sir.
At any point in time during the second time that the defendant came into your store, did he ever come over to your location on the south side of the store?
Yes, sir, he did.
And tell us what happened when the defendant came over either to or near your position, sir.
I believe, if memory serves me right, I spoke with him briefly, and he pointed out a couple of items on the back shelf of the display where I was standing, and I showed him an item.
And Mr. Wattenberg, when you refer to items, what do you mean, sir?
Tell him we think he's Okay? Thanks, Victoria.
He had an interest in some knives that we sell.
What type of knives did the defendant express an interest in?
The item that I recall was a large lock blade knife.
And could you describe that particular type of knife a little further for us, sir?
Sure, this particular knife is about 15 inches in length when it's opened. It has a locking device on it that holds the blade in a fixed position. When you release the lock and fold the blade closed, I believe it's about maybe 8.5 inches in length. It has a stag handle on it with a shiny stainless steel blade. The blade has some engraving on it. And basically, the ends, the hilt is brass, and there's a little guard toward the front portion of it that's also brass.
And Mr. Wattenberg, when you refer to a stag handle, would you explain what you mean, sir?
Stag handle is the antlers off of deer, and they utilize this quite a bit on some of the nicer, what they call collectible knives, because it makes an attractive handle.
Now, at the time the defendant was expressing interest in this particular knife, were you standing behind a counter of some sort?
Yes, sir, I was standing behind the display counter.
Is that a glass-topped display counter?
Yes, it is.
And where was this particular knife in which the defendant had expressed interest?
Directly behind me.
Was it on a wall?
It's on a wall, yes, sir.
Did you remove that knife from the wall in order to show it to the defendant?
Yes, sir, I did.
And would you please describe what happened, sir?
About the time when I took the knife off the wall to show it to the defendant, Mr. Camacho, which had been waiting on him previously, entered the picture, and I had some things that I needed to do in the back, so Mr. Camacho continued the sale.
Now, with regard to the manner in which this particular knife was it displayed with the blade open or closed within the handle?
And to my best knowledge, it was open.
And when you displayed the knife, that is, took it from the wall, displayed it for the defendant, was the blade open or within the handle?
As far as I can recall, it was, yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Wattenberg, at the time, and as of this particular date, did you have more than one size of this particular type of knife within your store?
At the particular time, I think we had two knives similar to this on display, one short one and one long one.
And how much shorter was the shorter one than the longer one you've described?
Possibly a couple of inches. I don't know the exact dimension of it.
Was there a price difference between the two?
There's a slight
I absolutely kiss and tell. 100%. Yep. And judge.
price difference, yes. Maybe $10 or $15 difference in price.
Do you recall the price of the
I bet.
larger knife which you showed to the defendant?
I believe the larger knife was $74.98.
Now, do you recall showing the smaller version of this larger knife to the defendant that afternoon?
I really don't recall whether I did or not.
Is it possible that you did?
It is possible that I did. I was very busy that day and might not remember it.
And you recall, sir, however, showing the larger knife to the defendant, is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you certain of that?
Yes, I am.
How certain are you of that?
Very sure.
What are you wearing?
Now, did you continue to have did you have any sort of conversation with the defendant as you were showing him this knife?
I really can't recall whether I did or not.
Did the defendant express an interest in purchasing this particular knife?
At the present time when I was there showing it to him, he just wanted to see the knife, which I took off the back display, and I don't know if I handed it to him or put it on the counter, but I did, show it to him.
At some point in time, Mr. Wattenberg, did Mr. Camacho come over to assist you with the defendant?
Yes, he did.
And tell us what happened then, sir.
After then, I believe that I excused myself. I had some things that I needed to do in the back, some paperwork, and I left and returned to the back of the store where we have like a little office area.
Shortly thereafter, did you see Mr. Camacho again?
Yes, a little bit after that, Mr. Camacho came to the back where I was, and he handed me the knife and told me that the customer wished to have it sharpened. I took it in the back where we do our sharpening, and I sharpened the knife, and then I returned to the front with it, and I put it on the counter.
Now, sir, when you're referring to the customer, are you referring to the defendant?
Yes, sir, I am.
And with regard to the knife that was brought back to you, was this the same knife that you had brought off the display and presented to the defendant or showed to the defendant?
Yes, sir, it was.
This was the larger 15-inch overall dimensioned knife, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Now, Mr. Wattenberg, is there a difference between a single-edged knife and a double-edged knife?
Yes, sir, there is.
Would you explain the difference for us, please?
Sure, a single-edged knife is sharpened on one side only, and a double-edged knife is sharpened on both sides.
And what type of knife was this knife that you sharpened for the defendant that afternoon?
This knife was a single-edged knife sharp on one side only.
With regard to the other side of a single-edged knife, is the edge, as with regard to this particular knife, blunt, dull, sharpened? How would you characterize it?
On this particular knife, the reverse side is completely flat or blunt.
Now, with regard to the knife that you sharpened for Mr. Camacho, you were certain that this was the larger of the stiletto-type knives that you've described, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Now, what did you do, Mr. Wattenberg, after you sharpened the knife for Mr. Camacho?
After I sharpened the knife for Mr. Camacho, I put it on the counter and continued doing what I was doing in the back. I believe I was doing some paperwork or possibly doing some ordering. I don't remember exactly, it's length of time ago, so I couldn't tell you exactly what I was doing, but some type of office work.
Did you ever see the defendant leave your store that afternoon?
No, I don't believe that I did. I was in the back working, and I don't believe that I saw him leave the store.
You had some awareness developed at some point that he had in fact left the store, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wattenberg, I would now like to direct your attention to Tuesday, June the 14th, 1994. Were you working at Ross Cutlery on that particular day?
I believe that I was. I'm not familiarized with that particular day. It was on a Tuesday, you said?
That's correct.
On a Tuesday, I definitely would have been there.
And do you recall a date when some detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department arrived at your store?
Yes, sir, I do.
And you were present when they arrived?
Yes, I was.
Were any other employees present besides yourself?
There were several other employees there.
Amongst them were your brother, Richard.
Yes, my brother Richard was there.
I suppose it would be unfair to characterize your brother Richard as an employee. He is in fact a co-owner.
Co-owner,
is he not?
correct.
But amongst the employees present was Mr. Camacho there.
Yes, sir, he was.
And did you speak with the detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department?
Yes, sir, I did speak with them.
Did your brother Richard speak with the detectives?
Yes, sir, he did.
And did Mr. Camacho speak with the detectives?
Yes, sir.
During the course of your conversation with the detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department, did you show them a knife?
Yes, sir, we did.
Were you asked by those detectives to show them a particular type of knife?
Yes, sir, we were.
And tell us what you did, sir.
I took them to the front area of my store where these particular knives were sold and proceeded to show them the knife.
And by the knife, what knife are you referring to, Mr. Watt?
They had an interest in the knife that we had previously sold to Mr. O.J. Simpson.
And did you show them an identical knife?
Yes, sir, I did.
And was that knife identical as far as you can determine to the knife that was sold to the defendant?
It
on
was
May the 3rd?
identical in size and type. Some of these knives will vary a little bit because the stag is a natural material, so it could be a little darker, a little lighter, but the overall size and function of the knife is the same.
Was the knife that you showed to the Los Angeles Police Department detectives identical in terms of price?
Yes, sir, it was.
Was it also priced at $74.98?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Was that knife sold to the detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department?
Yes, sir, it was.
Your Honor, at this time I would like to mark an exhibit for identification. Would the court prefer that I mark it next in order as 3, or may I mark it as People's 1 for purposes of the prelim per se?
All right, we'll call it People's 1 for purposes of the preliminary hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor. And may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have here a board upon which is contained 4 photographs depicting various aspects of a knife, which I would characterize as being a knife as described by Mr. Wattenberg in his testimony this afternoon. Each of the 4 photographs is designated by a letter A, B, C, and D. May this exhibit be marked as People's 1 for identification.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Mr. Wattenberg, I'm going to direct your attention to the exhibit which has now been marked as People's 1 for identification. Do you see that exhibit, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
And specifically, do you see the photograph which has been designated as photograph A?
Yes, sir.
And would you describe for us, sir, what is depicted in photograph A?
In photograph A, there's a picture of the knife in its open position. This is a knife that we currently sell in our store.
And when you refer to the knife, again, do these photos depict in a true and accurate fashion the knife that was sold by your store to the detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department on or about June the 14th?
Yes, sir, this one appears to be the exact knife.
So with regard to photograph A, sir, does that photograph depict some of the characteristics of the knife purchased by the defendant on May the 3rd and that you have described in your testimony?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Sir, I'd like to direct your attention to the photograph designated as photograph B. Do you see that photograph, sir?
Yes, sir.
With regard to that photograph, does that photograph depict the overall dimensions of the knife that was sold to the detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department and which was identical to the one sold to the defendant?
Would it be possible for me to take a closer look at it?
With the court's permission.
Of course, you can step down and take a look.
Yes, sir, that appears to be the knife. It's equal length to the one that Mr. Simpson purchased, and also the detectives from the police department purchased.
And in terms of dimensions, Mr. Wattenberg, what is the overall length for that knife?
The overall length is approximately 15 inches.
And sir, when we refer to overall knife, we are referring to the knife in a locked, open position, are we not?
That is correct.
Directing your attention, sir, to photograph C, the photograph designated with the C. Do you see that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
And Mr. Wattenberg, what does that photograph depict?
That photograph there is showing the length of the blade.
And what is the length of the blade as depicted in that photograph?
The length of the blade in the photo is approximately 6 inches.
Mr. Wattenberg, earlier in your testimony this afternoon, you described some inscription on the blade that was sold to the defendant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you see either similar or identical inscription upon the blade depicted in photograph C?
The engraving on the blade is identical.
And what does the engraving, what is the engraving? What is engraved on that blade?
On the blade, it's engraved stiletto, and then it says Germany underneath it.
Now, Mr. Wattenberg, I'd like to direct your attention to the photograph designated with the D. Do you see that, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what does that photograph depict?
That photograph shows the knife in a closed position.
And can you give us the approximate dimensions of the knife in a closed position?
In a closed position, it's approximately, I believe, 8 inches.
Oh, Mr. Wattenberg, in your testimony today, you've described the knife that was sold to the defendant as a locking blade knife. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Would you tell us what that means, sir?
Okay, a locking blade knife is a knife that has a mechanism in it that when the blade is swung to an open position, it locks it into that open position so it won't easily close when it's being used.
And by what process, sir, does one close such a knife if one wanted to?
On this particular knife, there's a lever at the rear portion of the knife that you push down and then fold the blade closed.
And except for depressing that lever, would the knife remain locked in an open blade position if positioned that way?
In most general use, it would, yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Wattenberg, you are aware, are you not, that your employee, Mr. Jose Camacho, testified before the Los Angeles County Grand Jury last week, are you not?
Yes, sir, I am.
And after Mr. Camacho testified, did you become aware that he had been approached by various individuals from the media who were trying to get Mr. Camacho to talk to the media?
Okay, let me clarify this because I was on a vacation and I was gone the week that this all transpired. I learned of this after returning from vacation, so I have to testify in that regards that I wasn't there when the news media deluged our store, but I learned of it afterward.
And is it your understanding, sir, that the news media deluged your store only after Mr. Camacho testified before the grand jury?
To my knowledge, that's correct, yes.
And Mr. Wattenberg, after you returned from your trip, did you become aware that Mr. Camacho, as well as your brother, had signed some sort of agreement with someone?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what was your awareness?
They had signed an agreement with the Enquirer magazine, National Enquirer.
And when was it that you became aware of this agreement?
I was made aware of this when I returned on Saturday. Let's see, I don't know the date on Saturday. Was last Saturday. Approximately maybe 8 o'clock when I got home, I called my brother, and my brother told me what had transpired during the week when I was gone.
Mr. Wattenberg, did you sign an agreement with the National Enquirer?
No, sir, I did not.
However, sir, do you expect to profit in some manner from your brother and your employee Mr. Camacho having signed such an agreement?
Yes, sir, I do.
And would you explain to us, please, how you expect to profit?
My brother and I, being equal partners in the business, are going to divide this money up 3 ways. Mr. Camacho will receive 1/3, my brother 1/3, and myself 1/3.
And what sum of money are we talking about, Mr. Wattenberg?
The figure, I believe, is $12,500.
Have you been contacted personally by anyone from the National Enquirer?
Yes, sir, I have.
And would you describe the circumstances of that, please?
A gentleman named Mr. Alan Smith, which is the senior reporter for the West Coast, called me, I believe, on Saturday. Can I clarify one thing? Because I just realized that I made a mistake.
Be my guest, sir.
I returned on Friday evening, not on Saturday, from my trip from Germany. On Saturday morning, I got a call from Mr. Alan Smith that he wanted to purchase one of these knives to send it in to the Enquirer so they could use it for photo purposes. And I don't remember the exact time. Mr. Smith came in the store. We talked briefly. He purchased the knife. I called Federal Express, I believe, and they sent a courier to pick up the knife about an hour later, which we had ready for them.
Well, Mr. Wattenberg, to your knowledge, has your brother or Mr. Camacho received any money from the National Enquirer as of today's date?
No, sir, we have not.
Do you have some expectation of when you might receive some money from the National Enquirer?
My brother was instructed by the National Enquirer that after the story has run for a week, that we would be, given the payment.
And sir, when do you expect the story to run?
The story is due to be released Monday.
Now, have you described the extent of your contact, your personal contact with the National Enquirer?
Yes, sir, I have.
And sir, to date, you have not received any money from the National Enquirer, is that
No, I have not, sir.
Hi, husband.
Mr. Wattenberg, if I may, with regard to the figure of $12,500 that you've indicated in your testimony this afternoon, is that figure or that sum to be divided equally amongst the 3 of you, that is yourself, your brother, and Mr. Camacho?
That is correct, sir.
And it is not the fact that you are to receive approximately $12,500, your brother receives $12,500, and Mr. Camacho receives $12,500.
No, it's a total of $12,500 complete, all 3 of us together.
Thank you, Mr. Wattenberg. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Shapiro?
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wattenberg.
Good afternoon, sir.
You described this knife as a collectible.
Yes, sir.
What is a collectible?
A collectible is generally a finely crafted knife that collectors would be interested in.
Are there different categories of knives that you carry in your store?
Yes, sir, there are.
What are those categories?
We carry cook's knives, butcher knives, general purpose kitchen knives, pocket knives of every size and description that you could think of, hunting knives. The list could go on and on. There's many, many different categories of knives.
How would you differentiate a hunting knife from a collectible knife?
A hunting knife could also be a collectible knife. It would depend on who made it and the quality involved.
What is the main purpose of a hunting knife?
The main purpose of a hunting knife is fishing and hunting,
And to use for what purpose?
generally for a cutting tool.
And are those usually single-edged or double-edged?
Most hunting knives are with a single edge.
And did Mr. Simpson at any time ask to see a hunting knife?
I believe that he did, yes, sir.
And you showed him numerous knives, did you not?
Myself personally, I did not.
Mr. Camacho, to your knowledge, did?
Yes, sir, he did.
Do you maintain books and records in the course of your business?
Yes, sir, we do.
And do you maintain an inventory of your business?
We carry not a complete inventory. We do an inventory like annually, for the city requirement or whatever.
And do you keep a record of sales in the normal course of your business?
We generally ring up items on a cash register, and at the end of the day, we take a total. We keep a total of repairs, because repairs are non-taxable. At the end of the day, we fill out a daily cash sheet which indicates the total of sales and the total of repairs.
Does your receipt have does your cash register record the individual prices for items that are sold during a given day?
Generally not, sir.
Have you checked your receipts for this particular day?
Yes, I have.
And did they keep a list of the individual purchases?
No, this sale was just a cash sale, which was rung up on the cash register.
When a sale is made in the normal course of your business, is a receipt given?
There are times when a receipt is given if a customer requires it, or if it's something that's being like mailed that we need a record of, for mailing purposes, or if an item is put on layaway, there are receipts made out. But if a sale is made, just a cash sale, it is rung up on the cash register.
Are duplicate receipts made?
No, sir, they're not.
Just one copy of one receipt,
Yes, sir.
and that goes to the customer?
That's correct, sir.
So what you are telling us is you have no records whatsoever to establish that this particular item for this particular price was sold on this particular day?
That would be correct, sir.
Regarding the exhibit that you've been shown and that was purchased by the Los Angeles Police Department about a week ago,
Yes, sir.
except for the handle, you would say the knife is the identical knife?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And the handle will vary in design and color?
There could be slight differences in the color and texture of the
answered.
bone.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Hodgman, anything further?
And Your Honor, I have no redirect.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wattenberg.
Thank you.
Until you're officially excused from giving testimony in connection with this matter, I'm going to order you please not to discuss your testimony with anyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have another witness available at this time?
I do, Your Honor. Mr. Jose Camacho. Mr. Camacho, I understand, is sequestered in the hallway.
All right.
I guess that's not really sequestration.
Face the clerk. Raise your right hand, please, sir.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
This is just the preliminary hearing. This isn't the trial yet. We're getting there.
Seated. State and spell your name for the record.
Jose Camacho is Jose Camacho is Camacho. Camacho.
Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Mr. Camacho, you work at the cutlery store known as Ross Cutlery, located at 310 South Broadway in the city of Los Angeles, do you not?
Yes, sir.
And, sir, how long have you been working there?
I've been there for 22 years.
And what is your job there, Mr. Camacho?
I'm a salesman.
Mr. Camacho, I'd like to direct your attention to the individual I'm standing behind. Do you recognize this man, sir?
Yes, sir.
And who is this man?
So, Mr. O.J. Simpson.
Indicating the defendant, Your Honor.
Yes.
And, Mr. Camacho, have you ever seen the defendant in the cutlery store where you work?
Yes, sir, I did.
And do you recall about when that was, Mr. Camacho?
Oh, this is about
Why is he
9
smiling?
or 10 weeks ago, something like that.
Do you recall the exact date?
Be like close to May, on May, I can recall exactly the date.
Your best estimate is 9 to 10 weeks ago, is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? Now, Mr. Camacho, on the date that you saw the defendant in the store where you work, was there anything unusual or extraordinary going on outside the store?
They were filming a movie there at front of the store.
And at any point in time during the course of that filming, did you go out and take a look and see what was going on?
Yeah, we got to the lobby, and we were watching all the actors there.
And at some point in time during the afternoon hours of the date of this filming, did you see the defendant come into the cutlery store?
Yes, he walked in to the store.
And tell us what happened after the defendant entered the store.
Well, when I saw him walking into the store, I just, I looked at him, and then I knew who he was. And then he asked to see the knives. So I showed him where the knives were.
Now, sir, at the time the defendant asked you to see some knives, do you recall where you were within the store? Meaning, were you near the north display counter or the south display counter in the store?
Well, when he walked into the store, I was at front. And then I walked through the back of the store where those knives were. And he asked me some prices for the knives, so I just gave him some prices.
So did you show the defendant, or excuse me, I'll withdraw that. Did the defendant express some interest in various knives?
He liked one special knife. It's a small knife. It's made by Case. And I showed it to him.
Tell us a little bit about the knife, the best you can recall.
It's a collectible item. It's a knife that is not made anymore. And it's a nice looking knife. And he, when I showed it to him, he said that he wanted to buy it. But at that time, he didn't have no money to purchase it. So he told me that he was gonna come back and buy it. And then that
Sorry, Snoopy. Now I'm sending my tax returns to this knife. I hear it's nice looking.
time, he got called, to go and film again. So he left.
And Mr. Camacho, sometime later that afternoon, did you see the defendant in the store again?
Yes, he came back about 45 minutes or an hour later.
And what happened when the defendant came back later that afternoon?
When I saw him walking in back to the store, so I knew what he wanted, so I walked through the back of the store, tried to show him the knife again. But then somehow he, I guess he liked another knife at the entrance.
So what happened, Mr. Camacho?
So I followed him where he was going through the front of the store. And then I showed him, or I didn't say I showed him. My boss was at front already.
And by your boss, to whom are you referring, Mr. Camacho?
Mr. Alan Wattenberg.
The witness that just testified before you?
Yes, sir.
And what happened there at the front of the store in the vicinity of Mr. Wattenberg?
When I got there, he was already showing a certain knife that he purchased.
Smurf, most of my viewers are not live. And when you say things like that, they all comment on them in the comments later.
What type of knife was
It's
Mr.
cool.
Wattenberg showing to the defendant?
He showed in one of the. It's a German-made knife. It's also a collectible. It's made by a company. It's called Cuisine Grain. It's a knife that is about 15 inch over length.
You know, Mr. Camacho, directing your attention to the left side of the witness stand to 4 photographs that have been collectively marked as People's One. Do you see that exhibit, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do those appear to be photographs of the type of knife
Lots of cheesecake
that
comments.
at one point that afternoon was sold to the defendant?
That's the item I sold them.
Or more accurately, an item like the one you sold him. Is that correct to your knowledge?
Yes, the first I know that's the one, the item or like the one I sold to him.
Okay. Did Mr. Wattenberg continue to assist the defendant in the display of this particular knife, or did you have some role in the transaction?
Well, when I got close to them, another customer was waiting for me. So I went
I
and
love
waited on
cheesecake
this
cock.
other customer.
I love it.
When I finished waiting on this other customer, I went back to Mr. O.J. Simpson to finish the sale that I was doing.
Did Mr.
And
Wattenberg
then,
remain, pardon me, did Mr. Wattenberg remain with you and the defendant while the sale was completed?
Yeah, Alan was with Mr. O.J. Simpson. And then when he said that he wanted the knife, he required the knife sharpened. So I gave the knife to Alan so he can sharpen it.
Mr. Camacho, I'd like to back up in terms of time just for a little bit here. When the defendant went over to the location where Mr. Wattenberg was, did you see him gesture or point to a particular type of knife?
Cheater.
Yeah, he just, I guess something attracted him about the knife. It's a nice looking knife. And he just, he liked it.
Well, at the time, sir, and Your Honor, I ask that that be stricken because that really calls for a conclusion on the part of the witness.
Well, can I have an answer read back, please?
Yes. Answer. Yeah, he just, I guess something attracted him about the knife. It's a nice looking knife, and he liked it.
The objection is sustained, the answer will be stricken.
Thank
Verbatim.
you. After the I guess portion, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Mr. Camacho, at the time that the defendant appeared in your store, were there different sizes of the same type of knife as depicted in People's One?
Yes, there are two different sizes.
And was the
Does he look like he's smirking through the entire trial? This is not Crocodile Dundee. That is not the knife we're talking about. No, this is a knife.
other size knife larger or smaller than the one that was sold to the defendant?
It's a tiny bit smaller, probably an inch or 2 inches smaller than the large size.
And is the larger knife, at least at the time, was it priced differently than the larger knife?
Yes, it is.
Do you recall the price of the larger knife, that is the knife that was sold to the defendant that day of the filming?
The price on that knife I sold was $74.98 plus the tax.
And Mr. Camacho, at this time, do you recall how the smaller knife was priced?
I believe the smaller one is priced $59 or $64, something like that.
Now, during the course, well, I'll withdraw that. After Mr. Wattenberg went to the back area of the store, you assisted the defendant in the sale of this larger knife, is that correct?
Yes.
And did the defendant pay for the knife, or how did the defendant pay for the knife?
He paid me with a $100 bill.
A cash
In
transaction?
cash, yes.
And did you make change for the defendant?
Yes, I gave him the change.
As of today, do you have a general idea of the total cost of the knife, that is price plus tax?
The total price was $81.17.
Now,
Why does that matter? Why is he taking us through the price of this knife?
before you actually received the cash money from the defendant, did the defendant ask you to do anything with regard to the knife?
He wanted it sharpened.
And after the defendant asked you to have the knife sharpened, what did you do?
So I gave it to Alan, so he went back to the shop and resharpened it.
And what did you do after you took the knife to Alan for purposes of sharpening the knife? Did you go back to the defendant? Did you remain with Alan? What did you do, sir?
I finished, bringing up the sale, like give the change to Mr. OJ. And then I went back to the shop to get the knife and give it back to him.
At the time you sold the knife to the defendant, did you give him a receipt or a copy of the sales tape or anything like that?
Yeah, I gave him the receipt.
Was there a receipt that was made for the store that you recall? Or was it just the sales?
Just regular register sales.
And sir, it's your testimony then that after the $100 bill was presented by the defendant, after you made change, that you went back to where Mr. Wattenberg was and obtained the knife, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
To your knowledge, had the knife been sharpened?
It was sharpened.
And what did you do then with the knife after you retrieved it from the area where Mr. Wattenberg was?
I picked it up from the desk and then I just put him in a plastic bag and I handed it to Mr. OJ.
And after that, did the defendant leave the store?
Yes, sir. He got the knife and he just started walking out.
Mr. Camacho, about 2 weeks ago, were you interviewed by detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department?
Yes, sir, I was.
And where were you when you were interviewed by those detectives?
I was at the store.
At the time you were interviewed, was anyone else from the store interviewed by those same detectives?
Yes, Alan Wattenberg was there, my boss.
I'm sorry?
Alan Wattenberg.
And what about the other co-owner, Richard Wattenberg? Was he there, to your recollection?
Yeah, he was there too.
And did the detectives ask you some questions during the course of this interview?
Yes, I did.
And during the course of this interview, were you asked to show a particular type of knife to the detectives?
Yes, they asked me to show them a similar knife that I had sold to Mr. O.J. Simpson.
And was that done?
Yes, I did. I showed them the same knife that I had sold.
And, sir, with regard to the type of knife, was this the larger or the smaller of the two knives?
The larger size.
Was the knife that you showed to the detectives also priced at $74.98?
Yes, sir, the same price.
And did the detectives purchase that knife?
Yes, I did.
And with regard to the purchase price of the knife that you sold to the detectives, are you certain that it was $74.98?
I charged them the same price because they're all marked. It's the same.
Did the
I got good news, bad news right now, guys. Good news, bad news time. I'm going to start with the good news. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going because I want to get as much done as I can. I learned a lot from the Kelly trial. Bad news. Judge Fleischer's not in today. He took the day off, which is why I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to miss Judge Fleischer's stream because there is no Judge Fleischer stream today. We finally got Victoria back, and we don't have Victoria back. And this is not fair. We don't get to hear Victoria today. That's not fair, guys. All right, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get, this is the last part of this day of the preliminary hearing. The preliminary hearing goes to July 8th. Okay? And then we start the trial. So it stops in July and then it starts again in January. And then the videos get a bit longer. So we have a couple more days of this to go. I'm guessing that probable cause has been found in the preliminary hearing to move on to the trial. There you go. The judge is not sick. The judge is just taking the day off and he's not streaming today. No, the substitute judge never streams. Oh, you're right. I need to get some court. No, I don't. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try to get through what I can. This next one's only 25 minutes, and the one after that is only 39 minutes. So I may do 2 more. I have inside connections. Judge texted me this morning. No, he didn't. He did. I'm joking. I'm joking. The judge did not text me this morning. but he's still not streaming today.
Person who is in charge of the grand jury tell you the following. Mr. Camacho, you are admonished not to reveal to any other person, except as ordered by the court, what questions were asked of you and what responses were given. In addition, you are not to reveal
I know
any
you
other
do,
matters
love. I know.
concerning the nature or subject of the investigation which you learned during your appearance here, unless and until such time as a transcript of these proceedings is made public. I wish to advise you also that a violation of this order can be the basis of a contempt charge against you. Will you read that, sir?
Yes, he told us that also, but he said that was up to us if we want to talk, you know. We could if we want to.
Who said that to you? Mr. Khan or Ms. Clark say that to you?
No,
Did one of the lawyers in this case say that to you?
no, sir.
Did one of the police officers in this case say that to you?
No, I don't see anybody.
Do you recall whether it was a man or woman who said that to you?
It's a lady.
What did she look like?
You got me all confused. Well, she's not here.
What did she look like?
Oh my God, is he lying?
It's I don't want to put her in trouble. It's Patty, I would say. She told us that we could talk to the press, you know, if we wanted to. That was it.
I'm sorry, I did not understand the response.
Did you say Patty?
Yes.
And who do you mean by Patty?
Well, that's her name.
Who does she work for, do you know?
She works here in the building.
Did she work for the district attorney?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, she does.
Thank you, nothing further.
Mr. Hodgman?
Yes. Mr. Camacho, isn't it a fact, sir, that you were told by district attorney's office representatives not to speak to the press?
Oh, man. That's what I understand, you know, that we could talk, but if you want us, you know, if you wanted to say something.
Are you a little uncertain about this, Mr. Camacho?
Yes. Well, that's what I was told. What else can I say?
I'm sorry, you have to speak up. What did you just say, sir?
I was just told like this, you know, see, if we wanted to talk, you know, we can talk to the press.
And you're referring now to what Patty told you?
The problem with that is he's going to poison the jury if they read the press before. The jury has not been picked for the trial yet. So if the district attorney's office is telling people to talk to the press to put a story out, that's bad. That's going to poison the press. So he's not allowed to do that. But he just said that the district attorney's office told him to do it.
Yes.
And open the question.
Mr. Shapiro, anything further? All right, Mr. Camacho, I'm telling you, and I want this to be very clear, that until such time as you have officially been excused from this proceeding, you are not to speak to anyone concerning your testimony except for the lawyers in this case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You may step down. Is there another witness available at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
People call Mr. John DeBello.
Face the clerk, please, and raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give and cause your opinion before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State and spell your name for the record.
My name is John DeBello, John, capital Bello.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Of course. Ms. Clark.
Thank you. Mr. DeBello, can you please tell us what you do for a living?
I'm the restaurant manager of Mezzaluna Restaurant in Brentwood.
And where is it located?
It's at 11750 San Vicente Boulevard.
Can you tell us, sir, how close it is to the intersection of San Vicente and Bundy?
It's about a half a mile.
Now, what exactly are your duties there?
I'm the general manager of the restaurant. I do all the hiring, firing, and make sure that the food comes out good all the time, consistent. And I'm there from morning till night usually. And I get a day off during the week.
Maybe?
Maybe.
And when you say morning to night, sir, can you tell us what do you mean? Starting when, ending when?
That's longer than most of my relationships.
I usually get there at around 10:30 in the morning, and if I'm doing a long day, it's around till 1, 2 in the morning the next day.
And how long have you been working there in that capacity, sir?
For the past year.
That would mean since June of '93?
That's correct.
I'm going to show you a photograph that I'd like to mark. I'll show it to counsel first.
This could be Memorex. It's the right time. Hi, Kelly.
People's 2, Your Honor?
Yes.
And the second photograph, People's 3.
All right.
So I'm showing you the photograph that has been marked People's 2 for identification. Can I ask you if you recognize the person depicted in that photograph?
That's Ronald Goldman.
For the record, this is a certified copy of the DMV.
Judge Fleischer's not on today. He took the day off. So, no. I mean, you want me to hack into his home camera and pop it on from his laptop? I will. Just kidding. Joke. It's a joke. FBI, leave me alone.
License of Ronald Goldman. How do you know him, sir?
I hired him approximately about 4 months ago as a waiter,
And he-
full-time.
Full-time?
Yes,
And he worked there for the past 4 months steadily.
that's correct.
Showing you now People's 3 for identification, sir. Do you recognize the person depicted in that photograph?
Yes, I do, Nicole Brown.
For the record, this is also a certified copy of DMV. For Nicole Brown. How did you know her?
She was eating in my restaurant that night of the murders.
Had you seen her before that night, sir?
Yes, I have, several times.
Would you call her a regular in that restaurant?
She frequented the restaurant quite often.
Directing your attention, sir, to the night of June the 12th, 1994. Did you work that night at the Mezzaluna restaurant?
Yes, I did.
What time did you get to work?
I got to work about 6:45 in the evening.
Did you see Ronald Goldman there when you arrived?
Yes, he was on duty that evening.
Now, do the waiters in your restaurant, sir, do they wear any kind of uniform?
Yes, they do.
And can you describe it for us, please?
The uniform for all my waiters is black pants, dress pants preferably, a white shirt, a tie, and a vest. It can be a vest of their choice, as long as it's tasteful.
And did Mr. Goldman wear that uniform on the night of June the 12th, 1994?
Yes, he did.
If you know, sir, did he live anywhere near the restaurant?
He lived a few blocks from the restaurant. Yes, he did.
Now, when
Within
you,
walking distance. basically.
I'm sorry?
Within walking distance.
When you arrived at 6:45, did you happen to see Nicole Brown there?
Yes, I did.
Was she alone?
No, she was not.
Who was she with?
She was with a party of 10, and they made reservations that evening to dine.
And their party was already in progress, dining then at the time you arrived at 6:45?
They were, yes.
Can I ask you, were there children in that party, sir?
Yes, there were.
Now, regarding the layout of your restaurant, do the customers enter and exit through the front door?
Most of the time they do, yes.
Is there another exit besides the front door?
There is a exit that we use for our patio dining and also handicap.
And where is that located?
That is on the Gorham side of the restaurant, Gorham Street side.
So it's a side exit, sir?
Yes.
Now, the waiters and the employees, do they enter and exit through the front entrance?
It depends on which direction they're coming from. Mostly the Gorham entrance and exit they come through.
Meaning the side entrance?
Side entrance, yes.
Does your restaurant have a bar?
Yes, it does.
And where is that bar located?
It's on the west side of the restaurant, which would be the inside. The west side meaning, the east side would be the side facing the street, and the west side would be the wall with the bar right there.
Where is that bar in relation, sir, to the side exit you've been referring to?
It's about 20 feet from the exit.
If you were to leave through that side exit, would you necessarily then have to pass by the bar?
All the time, yes.
Do you recall who was waiting on Nicole Brown's party that night, June the 12th, 1994?
One of our waitresses.
And were you present when Nicole and her party left?
Yes, I was.
What time was that approximately?
I would say about 8:30, 8:45, within that time frame.
I'm getting pretty irritated.
Now, do the employees in your restaurant punch in and out on time?
Who says that? I'm on the west side of the restaurant. I'm on the north side of the restaurant. Who says that? Look, I just woke my kitten up. That's just not okay. If I knew this was going to be traumatizing, I would have never started this project. I know. Live in the past, forget the future. Thank you, Rivette. Thank you.
Time clock?
Every day.
And did Ronald Goldman punch out that night?
Yes, he did.
What time?
9:33, and I initialed his time card.
Rivette, which side of your house is the west side? Do you know? It's just a yes or no. Do you know which side of your house is the west side? I'm guessing no, but watch. Rivette's going to say, yep.
If you know, sir, did you observe that he left immediately after he clocked out?
No, he did not.
What did he do, if you know?
Well, he loosened his tie. I think he took off his vest, and he had a drink. I think it was a Pellegrino or something.
Pellegrino?
Pellegrino. It's a mineral water. Sorry.
And did you have a conversation with him?
Yes, I did.
Did anyone else have a conversation with him after you?
A couple of my waiters, bartender,
And who was the bartender that night?
Karen Crawford.
Are you familiar with someone by the name of Stuart Tanner?
Yes, I am.
Was he in the restaurant that night?
Oh, wow.
No, he was not.
This brings back so many memories for you. Wow.
Who was in the restaurant that night?
Well, there were 3 waiters, the busboys, myself. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Stuart was tending bar that evening. I'm sorry. I got this mixed up. Excuse me.
That's fine, sir.
All right.
Are you certain Stuart Tanner was tending bar that night?
Right. Karen was is my assistant on my Sunday evenings, and that's why I get that confused once in a while. So she was doing the front door, and Stuart was tending bar.
So are Sunday nights something different than during the rest of the week?
It's usually one night I get to rest a little bit. So,
Why is that? Does Karen Crawford take over the managerial duties for you on Sunday night?
yeah, she does all my bookwork and revenue and everything for me.
Other than Sundays, does Karen Crawford tend bar then?
Yes, she does.
So when she takes over the managerial duties on Sunday, does Stuart Tanner stand in for her at the bar?
Yes, he does. That's correct.
So he was tending bar on Sunday night of June the 12th, 1994?
Yes, he was.
Where was it that you last saw Ronald Goldman, sir?
I was speaking with him behind the bar that evening. That's the last time I spoke to him.
And after he spoke to you, did you observe him to speak with anyone else?
No, I did not.
For approximately how long after he clocked out on the time clock did he speak to you and other employees or stay in the restaurant?
I would say about 15 minutes.
So by your estimate, sir, you would say he left around 9:48, 9:50?
That's correct.
When he left, was he still wearing his uniform?
He did take his vest off and his tie.
But other than that, the shirt and the pants of the uniform he was still wearing when he left?
Yes, he was.
Did you ever see him again after that night?
No, I did not.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Shapiro?
Good afternoon, Mr. DeVella.
Yeah.
When you testified before the grand jury, do you recall being asked about the time periods involved as the prosecutor just asked you here today?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall what answers you gave them?
Similar answers that I did just a few minutes ago.
When you were asked approximately how long after Mr. Goldman clocked out did he remain, do you recall your answer was approximately 15 to 20 minutes?
I could have been, sir.
May I show you your testimony? Would that help refresh your memory?
Yes.
May I approach the witness,
Yes.
Your Honor? May I direct the court and the prosecutor to page 188 of the court.
For the record, the court does not have that testimony.
Would you like to have that, Your Honor?
It's not necessary.
Thank you. Just take some time to refresh your memory. Have you had a chance to review your testimony before the grand jury?
Yes.
Do you recall what your testimony was regarding how long you stayed with Mr. Goldman after he had clocked out?
We talked for a few minutes.
And did you testify before the grand jury that he remained approximately 15 to 20 minutes after he clocked out?
Yes, I did.
What type of clock device do you have to record the times an employee clocks out?
It's an electric clock. It's normal in most factories or restaurants, or you just put the time card in and it punches out the time, and that's it. It's very simple.
Do you know when the last time that time clock was checked for accuracy?
Well, I changed it when we changed the time when it was daylight savings time. So I pretty much have the clock within a minute or two, I would say, have an accurate time.
Do you adjust the clock for time yourself?
I do, yes.
And what do you use to set the clock with?
There's a little lever that I press down.
What do you use to gauge what the time actually is?
My watch.
Did you see a pair of glasses that evening?
Yes, I did.
Where did you see them?
I saw Karen Crawford pick them up on the sidewalk outside the restaurant.
About what time did she pick them up?
I would say somewhere around 9:15 in that time frame.
Were you with her when she picked them up?
I was inside the restaurant and I saw her picking them up outside the restaurant.
Is there any reason that you watched her do this?
Well, I'm very observant in the restaurant. I have to watch my employees, I have to watch customers and make sure that they're comfortable and they don't need anything. So when I see my employee go outside, automatically my eyes turn to her. And I was just wondering what she was doing outside.
Where did you see her pick the glasses up from?
Right directly in front of the restaurant by the ballet stand.
On the sidewalk?
It was on the sidewalk, yeah.
Could you tell what type of glasses they were?
They were wire rim glasses, they looked like to me, from a distance.
Did they look to be clear glasses or sunglasses?
Clear.
Did you see what she did with the glasses?
She put them in an envelope.
Do you recall being asked those exact same questions before the grand jury last week?
No, I don't.
Let me ask you, the following questions were given to you on page 189 of the grand jury. Did you happen to see a pair of glasses that evening that was discussed? Answer, yes, I did. Question, and where did you see the glasses? Answer, I saw my bar manager picking them up off the sidewalk in front of the restaurant. Question, and who was the bar manager? Karen Crawford. Question, did you see what she did with the glasses after she picked them up? Answer, no, I didn't. Do you recall giving that testimony?
No, I don't.
May I show it to you, please? Take as much time as you need to refresh your memory of what you just testified to last week.
Okay.
Was that your testimony as I read it, sir, before the grand jury?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Ms. Clark, do you have any further questions?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Mr. DeBello, when you just told counsel just now that you, I believe counsel asked you whether you knew what she did with the glasses?
At that time, I didn't know. It was told to me by Karen that she did put them in an envelope.
And when you were just asked by counsel if you knew what happened to the glasses, did you think he was talking about personally observing what happened to them after Karen Crawford picked them up?
Sustained.
Did you understand what counsel meant when he said, did you know what happened to the glasses?
I thought he was asking me basically what she did with them.
Did you think he was asking you whether you had actually personally seen what she had done with them?
No, I didn't.
But when you were asked before the grand jury, you were specifically asked in the following words, were you not, sir? Did you see what she did with the glasses after she picked them up? Do you recall that as just shown to you by counsel?
Right, I recall that.
And in response to that, you indicated,
I didn't see what she did with them.
did you mean to indicate today to counsel that you did see what had happened?
As she was picking up the glasses, she brought them back in the restaurant. After that, I didn't see anything.
But what were you trying to indicate to counsel then when he asked you if you knew what happened to the glasses? Were you trying to indicate to him that you had seen what happened to the glasses?
Objection, reading is suggested. Motion to strike.
Overruled.
Yes, I was.
You were trying to tell him that you had seen what she did with the glasses after she found them?
Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Yes, I was. I was trying to tell him that I seen her pick the glasses up and bring them back in the restaurant.
Okay. But were you also trying to tell him that you saw her put them in an envelope?
No, I wasn't.
Only you were trying to indicate what you knew after the fact.
That's right.
Thank you.
Mr. Shapiro, anything else?
Yes, just briefly. Mr. DeBello, you didn't see Mr. Goldman leave the restaurant, did you?
Not physically, no.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Ms. Clark, anything further?
I'm sorry. One more question.
Ma'am.
Was it about 15 to 20 minutes after he clocked out that you last saw him?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Do you have one more question, Mr. Shapiro?
I do not, Your Honor.
Sir, you may step down, and I just want to admonish you that until you have been officially excused from giving any further testimony in this matter, you are not to discuss your testimony with anyone except the lawyers in this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, it is almost 4:30. We're not going to call another witness at this particular point in time. We are going to adjourn the proceedings for today until tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I would, however, like to see counsel in chambers with regard to some matters that we discussed earlier today for just a few moments with the reporter. Thank you. Good night.
Love it. 2 thumbs way up.
Safely.
Oh, do I go get court videos or do I keep going? Let me see how long the next one is. We're on part 5. Oh, it's only 39 minutes long. We can do, I'm going to do 39 minutes. Because the hair. Because I love the hair.
I would ask one offer of proof, and I would ask to be able to approach, because I don't want anything unfair, improper, or prejudicial to get in the record. I'm not sure what Mr. Shapiro is going to read, but we're dealing with a media source. One of the things that Ms. Clark and I have enjoyed thus far about this proceeding is the ability to present evidence in court in a lawyer-like fashion. So, Your Honor, if we may we approach so that we can discuss this in a more professional manner?
I mean, please have the walkie-talkies off in court. Anything that we're going to talk about is going to be recorded. Are you asking for like a sidebar on this?
Yes.
All right. Then I'll see the lawyers in chambers first with the reporter, please.
Thank you.
Conference in chambers, the court has denied a motion to strike Mr. Camacho's testimony.
I bet it looks exactly the same. Same microphone, same everything. I bet it's all the same.
Ms. Clark.
Before we turn over pages numbered L126 to L128, these are further lab notes concerning the evaluation of evidence for the purpose of DNA analysis. I'm handing them to Mr. Gilman.
All right. Call your next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Ms. Karen Crawford.
Face the clerk and raise your right hand, please.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
Karen Lee Crawford, KarenLeeCrawford.
May I inquire?
Good morning, Ms. Crawford. Please tell us what you do for a living.
I work at Mezzaluna.
And what do you do there?
I'm a bartender and I manage the restaurant on Sundays.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to try and sit forward and keep your voice up a little. It's hard to hear you. Comfortable? And could you tell us again, what do you do at the Mezzaluna?
I bartend and I manage on Sundays.
I'm going with absolutely not, because you know how many courts I get every day? And all their sound systems are terrible. Terrible. I bet they haven't updated it in 40 years.
And where is the Mezzaluna located?
It's on the corner of San Vicente and Gorham in Brentwood.
She's a bartender.
Is that near to the location of Bundy and Dorothy, or Bundy and San Vicente?
Yes, it is.
How long have you been working there?
I've worked there for 1 year.
Were you employed there as the bar manager on June the 12th, 1994?
Yes.
And do you recall that being a Sunday?
Yes, it was.
Now, since it was a Sunday, what were your duties on that day?
I got in at 3:30. I reconciled the books from the day before, set up for the evening. I run the floor, and at the end of the evening, I run the reports and I close up.
What time did you get there on June 12th?
3:30.
I'll show you a couple of photographs. People's two for identification. Can you tell me if you recognize who's shown in that photograph?
Yes,
Who's that?
that's Ron Goldman.
And showing you people's three. Do you recognize who's shown in that photograph?
Yes, that's Nicole Brown.
Now, the person you identified as Ron Goldman. How did you know him?
I worked with him.
Did he work at the Mezzaluna with you?
Yes, he did. He was a waiter.
And how long had he been working there?
For
How long?
about 4 months.
And that's as long as you knew him?
Yes.
How did you know Nicole Brown?
I had seen her in the restaurant occasionally.
Did she come to the restaurant fairly often?
As far as I know, she did. I only saw her in the course of a year 3 or 4 times.
During the 3 or 4 times that she came, did you ever speak to her?
A couple of times, just to say hello or to help her with something.
Enough to know her voice.
Yeah.
On June the 12th, 1994, can you tell me if you saw Ron Goldman at the restaurant?
Yes, he was there.
Was he working?
He was working, yes.
And did you see Nicole Brown there?
Yes.
Do you recall what time she arrived?
Her party arrived between 6:30 and 7 that evening.
When you say her party, she was not alone then?
No.
How many people was she with?
She was in a party of 10.
Did that party include children as well as adults?
Yes.
At some point, did you notice at what time Nicole and her party left?
They left, I would say, between 8:30 and 9.
Can you tell us if you remember what she wore that night?
Yes, she was wearing a black halter dress.
Was it short?
It was mid-thigh.
Now, so Nicole and her party left between 8:30 and 9?
Yes.
At some point after they left, did you receive a phone call?
Yes, I did.
Did you recognize the voice of the person that you spoke to on the phone?
Yes, I did.
And who did you recognize that voice to belong to?
It was the voice of the older woman in the party, in Nicole's party.
And the woman said something to you?
Yes.
Based on what she said, what did you do?
I looked around the restaurant, and I also looked outside for a pair of glasses.
Did you find it?
Yes, I did.
Where did you find it?
I found them outside where I had seen them getting out of the vehicle. They were in the gutter, a few inches away from the curb.
So you saw Nicole and her party arrive,
Yes.
and you saw them get out of the car.
Yes.
And is that where you found the glasses?
Yes, I found them right there.
And what did you do with them when you got them?
I went back to the phone, told the woman I
Yeah, I
had
would.
found the glasses, and I put them in an envelope.
Did you ask her something?
I asked her if she would be coming by the restaurant that evening to pick them up.
What kind of envelope did you put those glasses in?
A business-size envelope, a long rectangular envelope, white.
Did you write anything on it?
Yes.
What did you write?
I wrote Nicole Simpson, and below that I wrote prescription glasses.
Did you seal the envelope?
Yes, I did.
Now, so then you asked if she would be picking up the glasses that night. She gave you a response to that, I take it.
Yes.
And based on her response, you put those glasses into the envelope, wrote on it Nicole Simpson prescription glasses, and sealed it?
Yes.
And then where did you put the envelope?
I placed the envelope behind the bar.
Did you get any other phone calls that night?
Yes.
How long after that first phone call from the woman in Nicole Simpson's party did you get the second phone call?
I would say 5 minutes.
What time did you get the first phone call?
I would say around 9:30.
And so the second phone call would be?
9:35 or so, yeah.
Did you recognize the voice of the person on that second phone call?
Yes, I did.
Whose voice was that?
It was Nicole's voice.
And you had a conversation with her?
Yes.
Did she ask you to do something?
Yes.
What was that?
She asked me if I could get Ron on the phone.
And what did you do?
I went over to where Ron was sitting and I told him that Nicole was on the phone and she wanted to speak to him.
What did he do?
He took the call.
Did he stay by you as he spoke on the phone?
Yeah, I was standing near him when he was on the phone.
And they had a conversation for a while?
For a couple of minutes, yeah.
After they had that conversation, what happened next?
I gave him the glasses.
So you had the conversation with Nicole, after which you gave the phone to Ron, who spoke to her, and then
Yes.
you gave Ron the glasses.
Yes.
Did you see when he left the restaurant?
Yes, I did.
And when was that?
I would say at about 10 minutes to 10.
Do you know what exit he used when he left the restaurant?
He used the side exit that goes out to Gorham.
Is that exit near the bar area in your restaurant?
Yes.
Do you happen to know who was tending bar that night?
Stewart was tending bar, Stewart Tanner.
Your Honor, I have here a series of photographs. I'm going to ask that they now be marked as People's 4.
All right.
I do not know what these photographs are going to look like, guys, just so you know.
At this time, I'm going to ask this uncovered photographs that are labeled on that as C and F. Showing us the defense.
Good idea. Rest up, Kelly.
Ms. Crawford, if you can you see this photograph?
Yes.
I'm directing your attention specifically on People's 4 to the photograph labeled as F. Can you tell me if you recognize what that is?
It's an envelope.
Does it appear to be the kind of envelope you used to put the glasses into on the night of June the 12th which you labeled Nicole Simpson prescription glasses.
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Crawford.
Good morning.
The glasses that you found, did you find them on the blacktop?
They were just a few inches off of the gutter, yes, on the asphalt.
When you went to call Ron Goldman to the phone, where was he?
He was sitting on table 101, which is the very first table to the left of the front entrance.
Who was he with, if anyone?
He was sitting with John and Richard. John DeBello, the manager, and Richard Arbolino.
Richard,
Arbolino?
What were they doing?
They were having dinner.
Did you notice anything of an alcoholic beverage at the table?
No, I don't recall.
Thank you, nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. I'm going to remind you that until you have been officially excused from giving testimony in this matter, you are not to talk about your testimony with anyone. Thank you very much, except for the lawyers. Next witness.
People call Mr. Stuart Tanner.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
necessary, leave the photographs up for the next witness.
No, he has not.
All right. Face the clerk and raise your right hand, please, sir.
do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the class opinion before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You can proceed. State and spell your name for the record.
Stuart Tanner, STEWARTTANNER.
Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Tanner.
Good morning.
Can you tell us where you work, sir?
Mezzaluna and Brentwood.
And where is that located exactly?
11750 San Vicente.
Is that near the intersection of
I'm
San
so
Vicente
sorry.
and Bundy, or San Vicente and, Bundy and Dorothy?
Yes, it is.
How long have you worked there as a waiter?
Since November
I'm guessing hardly at all. hardly at all.
of 93.
Do you have some other duties as well as being a waiter there, sir?
I bartend occasionally, basically Saturday, Sunday, and Monday evenings.
Showing you photographs that have been previously
I feel
marked
bad
as
for her.
People's 2 and 3. First of all, People's 2, sir. Do you recognize the person shown there?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
Ron Goldman,
And the person shown in People's 3?
Nicole Brown.
With respect to Ron Goldman, how did you meet him, sir?
We were co-workers.
He worked at the Mezzaluna also?
Yes, he did.
In what capacity?
As a waiter?
Had you known him before he worked there?
No, I did not.
You met him there then?
Yes.
And Nicole Brown, how did you get to know her?
She was a customer at the restaurant.
Now, were you working there on the night of June the 12th, 1994?
Yes, I was.
In what capacity were you working there on the night of June 12th?
As a bartender?
Did you see Ron Goldman there that night?
Yes, I did.
Was he working?
Yes.
Did you see Nicole Brown there that night?
Yes, I did.
Did you happen to notice whether she was alone or with another party?
Nicole was with her family and children.
And how large was that party?
A group of approximately 10.
Did you make some plans with Ronald Goldman for later that evening?
We were supposed to get together after work and go out.
And where was that?
We were going to the Baja Cantina
Which is located where?
in Marina del Rey.
What exact plans did you have to meet up that night?
Basically, Ron got off work before me and was to call me at work, or I was to call him when I got home. I got home from work that night and was tired, and I hadn't received a phone call from him as of yet, and was going to wait for the call or just going ahead and go to bed.
Now, the location of 875 South Bundy, you know where that is, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that location on the way, if you leave the Mezzaluna restaurant, would that location be on the way to the Baja Cantina or your house?
Yes, it would be.
Did you see Ronald Goldman as he left the restaurant that night?
Yes, I did.
Did he say something to you?
Said he'd talk to me later.
And when he left, sir, was he still wearing the waiter's uniform?
No, he'd taken his tie and vest off. And he had a white dress shirt, black pants, black shoes.
So he had that part of the waiter's uniform on?
Correct.
Black shoes, black pants, and a white shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall, did you know where he lived?
I knew that he lived within walking distance of the restaurant. And that's about it. I didn't know the exact location. I knew the basic direction that he took, but not the exact address.
So when he left the bar that night and said he'll talk to you later, did he leave by the front or the side exit?
The last time I saw him, he was walking towards the front door. However, I did not see him leave through that door. I did not see him leave through the side entrance either.
So you didn't actually see him leave the restaurant?
Correct.
You just had that last conversation with him?
Right.
What time did you get home that night, sir?
Somewhere around 11:30.
And did you get any phone calls from Ron?
No, ma'am.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Shapiro?
Mr. Tanner, did you give a statement to the police regarding incidents relative to your testimony today?
I don't understand the question.
Were you interviewed by anybody from the police department regarding what you saw?
Yes,
this
sir.
night? And did you give a statement to them?
I believe so.
Did they write that down while you were talking?
What they wrote, I don't know.
Were they writing something down while you were talking?
Yes, they were.
Did you ever tell the police that Ron volunteered to take the glasses to Nicole at her house?
Not to my recollection.
May I show you a statement form dated 6/13/94?
Sure.
Let me read the statement form, please.
Okay.
Do you recall making a statement to the police the afternoon after this incident at about 5 o'clock that Ron volunteered to take the glasses to her house?
This statement is in the report, but Ron never told me that he had volunteered to take the glasses.
So the report by the Los Angeles Police Department, as far as you're concerned, is incorrect.
I wouldn't say that it's incorrect. I just say that there were a lot of people speaking at that time, and that this may have been written down
And if it was
in my name.
And if it was written down, it was something that you didn't say.
Quite possibly.
Quite possibly you didn't say it, or quite possibly you did say it.
Quite possibly I didn't say it.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Clark, anything on redirect?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Tanner, when the police were interviewing you on the date of June the 13th, about 5 o'clock, Were they asking you what you knew about the events that had transpired the night before in the restaurant?
They did.
And did you in fact learn from Karen Crawford that there were glasses that Ron was going to take to Nicole Brown that night?
Objection would be suggested.
Sustained.
Your Honor, this goes to counsel's question as to whether or not he may have made that statement, and I don't know how it could be leading at this point after counsel's already shown the statement to the witness.
The objection is sustained as to the form of your question.
At the time you spoke to the police on June the 13th, had you already spoken to Karen Crawford about the events that transpired with Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown in the restaurant on June the 12th?
I had spoken to Karen that day. And you have to understand it's very foggy that day and several days that followed that. The night that Ronald left, I did not know that he had a pair of glasses with him to take to Nicole's house. I may have found out later after speaking with Karen, or I may have just found out from other people. But the night that it happened, I did not know that he had those glasses on his person.
So what you're telling us is that you did not know of your personal observation or knowledge that he was taking the glasses to Nicole.
That is correct.
But you may have learned that when talking to people later the following day.
Yes, ma'am.
Then in response to police questioning as to what you knew about the events that transpired with Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown on June the 12th, could you have told the police what you knew without limiting yourself to what you personally observed?
Objection, Your Honor, that constitutes speculation.
Sustained.
Could you have told that to the police?
Objection, that constitutes speculation.
Sustained. Do you know whether you said that to the police, sir?
I don't remember. I really don't.
Either way, yes or no? You might have, you might not.
Exactly. You know, two people that you knew are dead. I mean, what do you remember from that? You just know they're dead that day.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Shapiro, anything further? Thank you, sir. You may step down. I do want to remind you, please do not discuss your testimony with anyone until you have been completely excused from this proceeding.
Thank you.
You may, however, speak to the lawyers concerning your testimony. Next witness.
People call Pablo Fuentes.
Face the clerk and raise your right hand, sir.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Seated. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Pablo Fenves. Last name is Fenjves.
Sir, I'm going to ask if you can speak up a little bit so that everyone can hear you. Ms. Clark.
Thank you. Sir, directing your attention to the date of June the 12th, 1994. As of that date, can you tell us what street you lived on?
I lived on 862 Gretna Greenway.
Gretna Greenway? Is that yes?
Yes.
And where in relation to 875 South Bundy is that?
Bundy is one block east, and we share a common alley.
Is it, what part of your condo faces that alley that you share with 875 South Bundy?
The master bedroom, the kitchen.
Is that at the front or the rear of your residence?
It's at the rear of my
Northeast
residence.
or southwest?
How long have you lived there, sir?
2 years.
If you look out the back, your bedroom window, are you able to see any part of the property of 875 South Bundy?
Yes, I'm able to see the whole
north side of 875 northbound.
Now, as of the date of June the 12th, 1994, did you know someone by the name of Nicole Brown,
No, I did not.
or where she lived?
I did not.
Directing your attention, sir, to the evening of June the 12th, 1994, Sunday night. Can you tell us where you were in the evening, sir?
I was home at 8.
Can you tell us what you were doing at about 10 o'clock?
I had just turned on the Channel 5 news.
The Channel 5 News?
Yes.
And where were you watching television at that time?
Upstairs in the bedroom with my wife.
At some point, while you were watching the 10 o'clock news on Channel 5, did something distract you?
Yes, about 15 or 20 minutes into it, I heard a dog barking, a sort of a plaintive wail.
Now, had dogs barked in that neighborhood before, sir?
Yes, but this was a pretty persistent barking that just wouldn't stop.
You described it as a plaintive wail,
Yes,
so it was an unusual sound of bark to you.
right,
And that was at about 10:15 to 10:20?
yes.
Did the barking stop or did it continue?
Well, about this time, I stopped watching the news and went down to my office, and I did a little work, and I didn't come back upstairs till about 11 o'clock.
At the point that you went downstairs to do some work, was the barking still going on?
Yes, it was.
Did you come back up from working at some point?
Yes, I did. I came back up at around 11 o'clock.
Where did you go when you came? We say you came back up. To where did you come back?
Back up to the master bedroom.
And at 11 o'clock, can you tell us whether you still heard the dog barking?
Yes, the dog was still barking, and I remember going over to the shutters and taking a look out toward Nicole's building. And I saw some lights on upstairs, but, of course I couldn't pinpoint, where exactly the dog was.
So you were looking out towards where you heard the sound coming from of the dog barking,
That's correct.
and you looked toward Nicole's house.
That is correct.
Did it sound like the same dog that you'd heard barking
Yes,
earlier,
it was.
10:15
It was
or so?
definitely.
I'm sorry?
It was definitely the same dog.
At what point did you go to sleep that night, sir?
I don't know. I went to bed about, a little after 11, and I read for a while, and the dog was still barking, and, eventually I turned out the light and went to sleep.
And at the point that you went to sleep, was the dog still barking?
As I recall, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have nothing for you.
Mr. Shapiro? I'm sorry, Mr. Ullman.
Mr. Finchvez, you watch the Channel 5 news every evening?
Generally, but sometimes I watch the 11 o'clock news.
And is that a one-hour newscast?
Well, I don't know. I usually watch the first 20 minutes of the news, and then it sort of gets into areas that I'm not that interested in.
I see. So you regularly stop watching after about 20 minutes?
About 20, 25 minutes, yeah.
Okay. And it was about 20 or 25 minutes then into the newscast that you first heard the dog?
No, I think
Objection.
it was about 15 or 20 minutes into the newscast that I first heard the dog.
Right, excuse me for just a moment. If one of the attorneys does make an objection, I would ask if you could just wait for a moment so that the court can make a
Okay.
ruling. And I assume you were withdrawing your objection anyway.
I am, thank you.
And did you hear the dog continue to bark as you were watching the news?
Yes, I did.
For about how long?
5, 7 minutes, and then I left.
Now, you did not look out the back of your condo to view the Simpson residence at that time?
At that point, I did not.
You went downstairs, did you say? Or?
Yes, I'm 2 floors down. I have my office.
I see. Did you continue to hear the dog bark while you were in your office?
Well, at that point, I was sort of focused on my work, so I pretty much ignored the sound if it was there.
And I believe you said at about 11, you came back upstairs?
That's correct.
And that was the point at which you looked out the back?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you say you looked out the back through the blinds?
Well, we have wooden shutters, you know, those storm shutters. I opened them up and took a look out.
Did you at any time go outside onto a rear porch to look at the premises?
No, I don't believe I did.
Now, did you give a statement to the Los Angeles Police Department after this event took place?
Yes, the following morning, Monday morning, they came to my house and asked me a few questions.
All right, so this interview took place at your home?
Yes, it did.
Did you tell the officers of the Los Angeles Police Department that you went outside on the rear porch to look?
No, I don't recall telling them that. I think they misunderstood what I was telling them at that point.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the statement that they prepared?
No, I haven't.
May I approach?
Yes.
No, I think there's a few mistakes there.
There's a few mistakes there?
Just a minor mistake regarding the Jeep.
Okay. Are you saying you did not tell the officers that you went out onto the porch to look?
I did not go out on the porch to look, no, sir. And I do not recall telling the officers that I went out on the porch to look. I said I looked out through the porch, you know, open the shutters, there's a porch beyond the porch.
Now, when you looked through the shutters, did you observe a Jeep parked in the driveway?
No, I think they misunderstood that because they asked me to take a look at the house from my house. And we went outside and I said, there where, you know, a Jeep was parked there a few days ago. You know.
I see. So you did not tell the officers that on the evening of this occurrence, you observed a Jeep parked in the driveway?
No, sir, I did not.
Now, you indicate you went to bed at about 11:30?
I went to bed a little after 11.
All right.
And I read for a while.
And the dog continued to bark?
Yes, sir.
How long did that barking continue?
Until I fell asleep, which may have been 11:30, 11:40.
So the dog may have continued barking even
Yes,
later
sir.
than that?
That's correct.
Now, is it unusual for a dog to bark that long in the neighborhood?
Yes, sir, you seldom hear. I mean, you occasionally will hear a dog barking, but certainly not at that length and at that pitch.
And did you at any time contemplate going out to see where the dog was or whether anything was wrong?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Well, it was a couple of hundred yards away.
I'm still struggling to find out how all this is important for probable cause. It's just, I'm trying, guys. I just went through the Kelly trial, so I'm trying to de-traumatize myself from those lawyers.
And I assume that, you know, one of the neighbors, it would probably be 3 times louder, and they would be able to pinpoint the exact location. I'd have to say, you know, I was near Dorothy and Bundy. And that was the area that the barking was coming from.
Thank you. Nothing.
Ms. Clark?
Thank you, Your Honor. No redirect.
Thank you very much, sir. You're free to leave. I do want to remind you that until you have been completely excused from this matter, you are not to discuss your testimony with anyone except the lawyers in this matter. All right.
People call him Stephen Schwab. Your Honor, I believe that this witness is a few minutes away. The court had earlier indicated it wanted to take a break at some point in the morning.
Of course, we got started sort of late, but this is a little bit early, but we could take the 15 minutes now. Will you have witnesses sufficient if I did that so that we can go till 12?
I believe so.
All right. Then we'll take a 15-minute recess, or actually it'd probably be a little bit more than 15 minutes, until 10:15. I'm going to remind you that I do intend to start at that time, so please be back and ready to proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we did good today, guys. We got through a bunch. Thank you so much for coming out to the OJ trial with me. I will play another hour tomorrow after my stream, and we're going to get through this together. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm sorry Judge Fleischer is not playing today, but Bill will be on soon, and we get to watch Bill. Yep. And Rebecca, I hope you do go out well. I hope the doctors fix him up and send you home quickly. Sorry you have to stay there so long. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Got these lights that goes digital dreams through the screen. Her blue eyes gleam. Wicked humor, sharp as a knife. Her stream sparks electric light. Late at night when the world sleeps, she's the friend that always keeps. Giggles roll like thunder loud. She stands out in any crowd. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor, dark and twisted, sharp. In a way, there's no alarm. Street tales late into the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle she lights the way. Her eyes near a sky so blue. In her jokes there's a truth so true. With each stream she brings the light, turns dark days into bright. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor, dark and twisted, sharp. In a way, there's no alarm. Streaming tales late into the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle she lights the way. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor, dark and twisted, sharp. In a way, there's no